If you are here to make a comment, there are comment cards in the back for you to fill out. Please make sure that you do that so when it comes time to public comment, we can get as many folks heard from as possible. So we're going to start this evening by celebrating our success, and we're going to talk about 5th grade science camp. Mrs. McGuire.
Now?
Yes.
There we go. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Good evening. I am really thrilled to be here tonight to talk about 5th grade science camp. I just want to give a little bit of background, but then I'm going to turn it over. So this year, for the first time, our 5th grade team got together. If you just want to press play, Steve, and then it'll just hopefully go through. So for the first time this year, the 5th grade team got together and decided and talked about providing an experience for all of our students at the end of the year. And so part of the conversation was really wanting the entire 5th grade team to have some sort of outdoor education science experience. So the 5th grade team did a lot of talking, researching, trying to find a place, and then trying to raise the money. And so you'll see the pictures. Ms. Critchfield and some of the students are going to talk a little bit about it. I just wanted to point out as the slideshow goes through, you'll see lots of parent names. We could not have done this without the amazing parent chaperones who worked and our teachers who were up and working 48 hours straight. But it really was an amazing experience, one that I'm so glad that we were able to provide to our students. So I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Critchfield.
I'm actually really not going to speak that much. I'm going to hand it over to the students. I think it's a lifetime experience, once in a lifetime experience for our students. You ready, my friend? This is Carla.
Hi,
one
Carla.
of our 5th graders.
Hi.
Hi.
One of the things that I liked most about was spending time with my chaperone in my cabins. I liked also the food that they presented. I liked it all. In my opinion, I liked the herpetology the most because I was able to learn more about the animals.
And Giovanni.
So the first thing that we did, we went on a night hike, and then during the night hike, we went on a solo walk. And earlier, the past days, we also went on a zip line, which was one of my favorite ones. And so I was brave, and I was okay. But then when I went up on the zip line, I got a little scared. But then I just went down, and it was cool. Then during the cabin, I was only with one of my friends in my classroom until we said funny stories, and I made some new friends.
Nicely done. And Lupita.
Hi, so first of all, I'd like to thank all of you guys for planning this amazing field trip. And another thing I'd like to share is, in my opinion, I think it was fun, educational, and exciting. I hope that you guys offer it to the other next 5th graders, and I hope they enjoy it as much as we did.
Do you have any questions for our 5th graders or myself?
I think exciting. You guys, I think, started a new tradition. That's pretty fun.
That's
be the first
really
ones.
Neat.
It's very exciting. And thank you for the parents. That's quite a long list of people. So thank you very much for having the willingness to put this together and go as a great, yeah, exactly. And yes, and absolutely all of those things.
A couple of comments. Several weeks ago, I was over at the school, and in one of the 5th grade classes, they were drawing different pictures and making comments. And one of the words I noticed in here is herpetology, and I was with an adult who said she didn't really know what that meant. I'm wondering if she does now, but I'm wondering if one of the students can tell us what herpetology is.
So herpetology is the study of amphibians and reptiles. And what we got to do in herpetology was hold snakes, lizard, and a turtle. And if you got a chance, if you didn't want to pet the big snake, you were able to step out of the classroom.
Yeah.
And I have one other question, and each of you can answer this or just one. What was your best learning experience zip line, I'm with you. But what was your best learning experience in science?
One of my favorites was one of my favorites with the zip line was it was like my first time going on a zip line. So first I got a little scared and then I got over it. Those are my favorite ones.
That's a
Oh, oh,
Well, zip lining is educational. We want to point that out.
Absolutely.
But science-wise,
Mhm.
I'm an ex-science teacher is why I ask.
Yeah, the herpetology was one of my educational ones
Favorite?
because like I didn't get like the chance to like touch a snake before, so this is like one of my chances too.
Perfect. Thank you. And again, I echo the words. I think this is a start, the first annual.
It's great.
Did you all put a banana slug on your face? Did everybody do that? Was that what that was? Was it a banana slug?
It was a banana slug.
everybody
Banana
do
slugs.
it?
Did you kiss them?
Challenge.
Okay.
Did you kiss
Just
the
wanted to know
banana
if we had
slugs?
to do that.
They got to go on our nose.
But
And then if you did that challenge, you signed like a special book.
because if
Very
you
nice.
kiss them, it'll numb your lips.
All right, great.
I just wanted to note there's a slide on here that says it, but the trip was funded through a generous donation of $5,000 from the PTO, and then also the HES and HCS governance councils,
Yes.
and then parent donations. But they were just donations that were optional, and every student went regardless of ability to pay. And we certainly want to continue that and potentially even do more fundraising to lower the amount that we would even ask for donations for families. But it was really the first annual for sure. I'm going to do it again.
It's wonderful.
It's fantastic.
Very
Thank
exciting.
you.
Yes, good job. And thank you to our students for sharing. That's very brave of you. Almost as brave as going on the zip line. Just saying. All right. Next we have agenda item 9.1, Healdsburg Junior High School and the Sonoma County STEAM Showcase, spotlighted on innovation.
All right, it's my great honor to welcome our junior high school science department here. All three of our junior high school science teachers are here tonight. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in a little bit more. Also, as a former science teacher, it brings me no greater joy than to celebrate both fifth grade science camp and the Sonoma County STEAM Showcase. Our county office is really pushing kind of the boundary of what you and I would know as science fair, and then is allowing our teachers and our students to push the boundaries and do some really innovative and cool stuff. So really excited. I'm gonna let the students and their teachers share their amazing projects.
Hi, thank you for having us. I am Patricia Murphy, and I'm the 6th grade science teacher. I have Sydney Mardell, 7th grade science teacher, Jen Majorek, 8th grade science teacher, and then a bunch of 8th graders who will introduce themselves. You can go to the next slide. So this year we decided to participate in the Sonoma County STEAM Showcase put on by SCO. We chose to do this because we wanted to create a different type of science project that addressed the new standards that we are implementing at the junior high. So we were really focusing on the STEAM aspect, which is the science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Not just the science, but trying to bring in more of those different aspects of it. You can go to the next slide. And so this year we started a brand new project called the Human Impact Project, which comes directly from NGSS. And our students had a lot more voice and a lot more choice in what they got to do. So they're going to talk to you a little bit about what they did.
Hi, my name is Valeria Jimenez, and what we did was make a non-used piece of land and transformed it into an astro garden, which we now want to use for people to learn about it, about where we live in the universe, and just to enjoy it.
So in the garden, we have where the planets are, and we measured them to scale and all of that, and the size and how far apart they are from each other. We even have the astro belt on there, and we have the colors of the planets and all that, and the flowers that are in each of the flower pots are the colors of the planets.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I was one of the 6 8th grade representatives for our entire 8th grade class project. I was very honored that I got to be part of this because I got to help make the model for our garden, and I think it's a really great project because we get to let people enjoy an unused piece of land that we turned into a pleasant and a pleasant space to just enjoy and relax and to learn about our solar system.
I'm Dylan, and I just wanted to say that I really like doing this project because this is something that other people are going to be able to continue to use and learn from throughout their years at the Healdsburg Junior High School.
Well, I just wanted to say thanks to the Governance Council for giving us some funding for this project, and the whole 8th grade class was able to participate. All 134 kids were able to get out there and get dirty and have some fun. And it's a really beautiful place to be now. And I think these guys are really proud of what they've done. And not only that, just to brag on these guys a little bit, they they won 3 out of the, what are there, 6, you guys? Out of 6 categories, they got distinguished in 3 categories out of the 6, which is outstanding for us going there for our very first time. So I was very proud of them and can't say enough about how awesome these guys are. So thanks.
Hi, so I'm Miss Mardell. So there was the 8th grade class. They did the astronomy garden. For 7th graders, like everybody had to do a project, but those that went to the STEAM showcase, I had a couple groups. One was about the stratosphere, so out in space, like how do we actually organize this? How do we plot this? What do we do about this? I had somebody who combined their passion for Rube Goldberg from last year's project, and they made how do you recycle plastic and glass? And there's even one where they did a debate of glass versus plastic, and is it really worth it to recycle, and actually what is better to recycle versus reuse? With that, I do want to say, so not only did they participate, but SCO sent back awards to each group that had distinguished. And so we had 13 out of 17 participants who got distinguished, at least in one area, if not all 3. And I just wanted to brag, because this is our first one. And for a human impact project, it could have been anywhere in California, Sonoma County, or even Healdsburg specific. So students were looking at what causes an impact in our community and how do we do that? What do we do? And so that was really powerful to see their choice and what do they choose and how do they do it and what they think are possible solutions that are out there, which is really awesome. And then Ms. Murphy?
So we brought this back to HJH, and we created our own HJH Science Showcase to have every student show off their projects. So we hope to do this in the future, and we hope that you can come check out what we're doing in the future as well. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Good job, you guys.
Thank you so much. That is exciting stuff. Thank you for everyone who came to present tonight. That was exceptional. All right. I think this is the moment we've all been waiting for.
I just wanted to let families know if there was anybody that was here for the 2 presentations and they'd prefer to go, that no harm, no foul. It is okay to come and go in and out of that door at any time. So if you need to get your little ones fed and out of here, we understand. So the door is open. People can come and go as they need.
Okay, so we are going to move on to public comment on non-agenda items. So a couple things really quick, just some housekeeping items. I want to make sure that if you are here tonight and you want to speak on a non-agenda item, you need to get a card from the back table there and fill that out and pass it on forward. We do have 20 minutes to listen to what you have to share with us. We only have 20 minutes, and each person that would like to share gets 3 minutes and only 3 minutes. So I know we have a number of folks here that would like to share. So please think about that when you're up here and you're using your 3 minutes. Certainly you're welcome to it all, but we would like to be able to hear from as many of you as we can. So again, 20 minutes, 3 minutes each. We're gonna be using the city's timer. I'm not 100% sure. Okay, Aaron's going to.
Yeah, so the way the timer works is the green light will go on when you begin speaking. You'll get 2 minutes, 45 seconds. The yellow light will blink and let you know you have 15 seconds to wrap up your thoughts. So 2 minutes, 45 seconds, yellow light at 15 seconds. When the red goes off, you need to end. You need to stop talking. Ms. Kiff will give you a very kind reminder, but we do want to stick to that 3 minutes.
Yeah, and I do just want to say too, this is public comment. Unfortunately, we are not in a position to be able to converse with you. That's why it's called public comment and not public conversation. So please understand that we are absolutely listening to what you have to say, but we are not in a position to comment. So please don't think that we're being rude by not asking you questions or commenting on what you have to say. But I am very glad you're here tonight, and I can speak for all of us. We're very glad you came. I do want to read a little point of order. I want to give you just a little bit of board policy before we start. Members of the public have the right to address the governing board on any items of interest, providing that it relates to the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Your request to address the board will be heard at the time the item is being discussed. And in this case, it's not on the agenda, so we're doing yours now. We'll have time for public comment on agenda items later. Your request to address the board will be heard at the time the item is being discussed. In accordance with Board Policy 9323, individual speakers shall be allowed a total of 3 minutes to address the board for a maximum of 20 minutes on each subject matter. The legal reference is Government Code 54954.3a. Whenever somebody publicly initiates specific complaints or charges against an employee, the board president shall inform the complainant publicly that in order to preserve the ability of the board to legally consider the complaints or charges in any subsequent evaluation of the employee, it is the policy of the board to hear such complaints or charges in closed session. So please be mindful of that. This means that in order for any conversation or action to be taken on a complaint, the district's complainant policy 1312.1 must be followed. If the complaint falls under the realm of collective bargaining and union relations with the district, it is the expectation of the board that the grievance procedure in either HADA or CSEA contract be followed before the issue is brought to the attention of the board. So, with that being said, we are going to start with our first public comment presenter, Greg Costa, please.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Little over a decade ago, the newly appointed superintendent, Jeff Harding, met with the district staff at the Villa to introduce himself and proclaim that he was going to build a world-class school district here in Healdsburg. Mr. Harding lasted about 7 or 8 years. Upon his departure, by controlling the board as he did, Mr. Harding was able to get his close friend, Mr. Vandenheuvel, hired as the next superintendent. So it was no surprise to us when Mr. Vandenheuvel followed Jeff Harding's lead and declared he was going to make Healdsburg Unified School District a world-class school. Interesting. The board recently sent out a letter to all our students' parents that read, and here's a quote: "We believe that our children deserve a world-class education." Sounds familiar. And here's another quote: "Preparing our students for success requires that we attract and retain top talent." Wow, okay. It's pretty clear, instead of the board being the voice of the people, as they claim in that same letter, yes, they said they were the voice of the people. And we know whose voice they really are and who's pulling those strings. Hey, I'm sorry I'm not a world-class teacher. I'm sorry about that. Heck, I don't even know what a world-class teacher looks like. Do you guys? What do they look like? World-class. I know that world class doesn't mean just spending public money for new facilities. 2 years ago, a popular Spanish teacher was told he would not be rehired. So last year, the district hired a new Spanish teacher for the junior high. That teacher was gone in a month. Next, they hired another teacher to replace her. That teacher was gone by the semester. They then hired a long-term sub for the entire semester, but the sub didn't speak Spanish. Seriously, you guys, would you call this world-class decision-making? You would call that world-class decision-making?
Thank you, Mr. Costa.
And if you look closely at these kinds of events, they happen often in the district. More recently, one of my colleagues was told she would not be rehired.
Your time is up.
Truly a sad day for all of junior high.
I'm going to need to interrupt you and ask that you.
But what kind of principal would take? Yes.
I got 3 minutes. Dan Novella.
No,
Do you mind if I pass it?
No, I'm sorry. Everyone gets
You
their
just
own.
passed it to me.
No,
Thank you.
No,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Mr. Costa, we are not
What
going
kind
to share
of
time.
principal? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Wait, you're the voice of the people, but you won't let the people
Ladies
speak.
and gentlemen, I need to ask you to please stop. Mr. Costa, you're finished.
No, I'm not finished. I have a little bit more.
I appreciate your time. I'm sorry. I appreciate your time.
The only thing
I
that's
would like to
sorry
ask-
is sitting right there.
I understand.
Okay.
I understand. I understand.
Right here.
Mr. Novella, I'm sorry.
I'm not allowed.
You are welcome. You're welcome to put your name in. Are you next?
I did.
No, this is Beth Costa.
Don't come up right now. This needs to be really heard by the public, what I have to say. This needs to be heard. They don't want you to hear it. Beth? Huh?
I got page 2.
Okay. Right there.
Okay, so let's see. So most recently, one of his colleagues was told that she would not be rehired. It was truly a sad day at the junior high. But what kind of principal would take a new candidate for that position into that teacher's class while she was teaching? How could that principal not know that this would be disrespectful and humiliating? What kind of person does that? That's
that person
horrific.
Right there.
Yeah. So, okay, the question is,
no, sir.
Does the board call this really world-class? Finally, in the board's letter to the parents, they insinuated that I was retiring because of the incentive program. Wrong.
Yeah.
I never planned to retire this year or next. When Greg was aware of that incentive, he told them clearly he was not going to retire. I think they needed to have 12 or 14 teachers for the incentive to be paid. So he said, do not include me in that. I'm not retiring. He really loves working with the students. Ultimately, it was one straw too many. He came home. The two of us decided this was the year. There was never going to be a change. It's a hostile work environment. There was no point in continuing. So he did put in his paperwork to retire. He said, I always told my family I'm not going to retire. I love teaching. I'm going to retire when it's no longer fun. So it is no longer fun. He is retiring. And then to you, he was saying that you have judged him, but you've never visited his class and you really don't know him. From the district office down to the junior high, I know my colleagues deserve better. I don't think we need world class. We need people with class. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Novella.
You can come back up. You had more time. Come on up.
Okay. So I'll try to make it quick. I know that I only have a few minutes left. So, okay, a lot of this has made me really upset, but the thing that made me the most upset was, honest to God, the letter that you sent out to the district, because I felt like the letter was written in a way to really just criticize Greg's integrity and his character. First of all, he didn't just take a chunk of money and leave and then badmouth the school. He really did retire because it really is no fun anymore. And we had a heart-to-heart decision with our family saying, it's never going to change. It hasn't changed in the last 8 years. It's gotten progressively worse. I said to Greg, look at all of our friends who are teachers who have retired in the last 10 years. How many of them retired because they wanted to? Maybe half. We have heard from all those teachers, people we haven't talked to in 7 or 8 years. They've all been calling this weekend, but they've all said the same thing. God, Greg, we got you. We know we were in the same boat. Secondly, people, of course, Facebook is crazy, but people are saying, Greg, how could he waste educational time in the classroom and have a rant about the administration to his students? He didn't have a rant. He waited as long as he could wait to address his kids. He didn't want to tell his kids he was retiring because he feels like he was letting them down. So what he said to his kids were, I didn't want to retire. I want you to know I really love you. And I love coming here every day. And I love teaching. I'm retiring not because of you. I'm retiring because of the principal. That was the end of the story. That is all he said. He didn't continue a conversation with that. And I think if anybody thinks that isn't a lesson, let me tell you, it isn't math, but it's a life lesson. It's being honest. It's sharing your feelings. It's being proud to tell the people that you care about them. He cares about his students.
15 seconds.
They learned that, bad things happen to good people and that life isn't always fair. So I think they learned some big lessons. And if any of you think that this is the way this should have been handled, seriously, worst case of management I have ever seen in any situation ever.
Thank you, Mrs. Costa. Mr. Novella.
Thank you. Honestly, I didn't have any intention to come today, speak, but after I read what the school district put out, I didn't agree with it. First of all, I thought it was a poor attempt to deflect the poor decision that the principal and superintendent had made. And your guys' inability to bridge that gap has caused this. You guys are the reason why our kids walked out of school and protested. I'm not a fan of my young son marching and protesting. That's not me. But we spoke about your rights, the constitutional rights. He's clear. Freedom isn't free. I served, my dad served, tons of families served. So the Constitution isn't just something I learned in school. I hope that you guys can still make a change and do the right thing, because it's not too late. We're just a community, we're citizens, and we want you to lead us with compassion, not just follow and do what they say. Thank you.
Thank you. Maddie Hirschfield, please.
I use my 3 minutes just getting up here?
No.
Hi, I'm Maddie Hirschfield. I'm the political director with the North Bay Labor Council. Good evening, board members. The Healdsburg Area Teachers Association is an affiliate member of the Labor Council, and we stand in solidarity with teachers and Mr. Costa tonight. First, I understand what an important job both teachers, school board members, and the administration have. What an awesome, awesome responsibility it is to help young people grow, help their minds develop. It's amazing. I look at you all with awe. That is a powerful testament. Oh, and you must have been incredibly proud of those students when they went out and used their voices to be heard about what was important to them and what they needed. You had to be. I was. It gave me great pleasure to look at that and see young people. It gives me hope for the future. That's a powerful testament, though, of how they've been taught. And I stand behind that. All of that said, putting Mr. Costa on administrative leave was a clear labor violation, and without talking with him first. That's how it goes. The rules are there for a reason. They're put in place for a reason. And the law was violated there. The Labor Council is here to say that we stand with the teachers and we stand strongly with Mr. Costa. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Sophia Villa, is it Villa or Villa? Villa, thank you.
I didn't really intend on speaking tonight either, but then I thought that one of the most important voices are probably the students' voices, right, that go to the school. I've always personally had a really hard time with math and trying to learn it, but this year was the one year where I actually got an A and like really started to excel in math. And I can finally say that like math is my favorite subject. Never thought I was gonna say that. Mr. Mr. Costa isn't only an extraordinary math teacher, but he's also just a phenomenal person in general. I speak for not just the 7th graders that have him in math, but the 8th graders that have had him, the 6th graders that haven't even had him in class yet. They all love him. Everyone loves Mr. Costa. As you know, there was a walkout on Monday, and I can definitely tell you that it wasn't just 7th graders out there. It was well over half the school, over 200 people. Most didn't return back to class when we had intended to. We were going to just go right after second period, go back to class. But no, we were out like the whole day. We were out for about 5.5 hours, a lot of us. I got a bunch of blisters on my feet, I can tell you, from marching around all day, screaming at the top of my lungs that we want Costa. And yeah, like I said, I can speak for everyone when, as long as this is a problem, it's not just going to be the parents and adults on your back, but there's going to be an army of 11 to 14-year-olds right behind you. Yeah. We all want Mr. Costa back in the classroom. There's about 3 weeks of school left. The substitutes we have right now are great. I'm sure they're lovely people, but we're not learning anything. Every 7th grader will tell you that we're not learning anything new at all. Finals is coming up. We don't know any new material. And Mr. Costa can teach us a whole unit in 1 week. He's amazing at his job, and we all want him back. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia.
Thank you, Sophia.
Thank you. Brian Sommer, please.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
So thank you to all of you for your service. And it's very easy for me to say that I stand with Mr. Costa. And I can say that because he's done this for 31 years. And anyone that can dedicate their livelihood to teaching kids for that long sits in a special place. I also stand with policy. I also stand with procedure. And I also stand with handling complaints or grievances in the appropriate way, always. When I look at how this situation has happened and the events that have transpired afterwards, there are major red flags for me. And, you know, from what I know, I can't imagine that there wouldn't have been an appropriate course of action. And I don't know how it works with administrative leave that's paid or administrative leave that's unpaid, or I do know how it works with separation of employment. And I believe that when, you know, if I had an employee and under my watch and my employee, behaved with some sort of insubordination or something that warranted an investigation, there would be a suspension. It would be without pay, and it would lead to termination if depending on the findings. So I can only hope that as you sit there, that the proper policies and the proper procedures are being followed and they are being observed, even though they're not always understood by 7th grade students or the general public, even though that everything that happens behind closed doors is not always made known to all for legal reasons. I just would implore you that you do stick to the established policies and procedures. At the same time, I would just like to commend Sophia for having the courage to come up here and speak and the passion that she displayed in the walkout. Whether she is aware of all the facts and both sides of the story or just one. Again, as I said at the beginning, there's no question that Mr. Costa is passionate, that he's inspiring, and that he is a figure that people will follow. I think you can tell by all the people in the room the support that he has. Is it possible, that there was maybe not an observance of proper policy and proper procedures, as we witnessed here tonight, running over the 3 minutes? I don't know. So I'll just leave it at that.
David Hubel? Did I say that right? Okay, yay me. All right, thank you. Good evening.
Lived in Hillsborough since I was 4 years old. HHS class of 97. I attended every elementary school there was, including Foss Creek. Sure that it opened. I've got a 5th grader at ABS who's bound for the junior high. Sad to hear Costa won't be one of her teachers. And I also have a senior graduating who did have Mr. Costa. I'll say this, I grew up around the corner from Greg and Beth Costa, some of the best people I've ever met in my life. I consider them pillars of honesty. And what I just saw from him tonight, I came in not knowing what I was walking into, and I just learned a bunch of stuff about the district that really disappoints me from a person whose opinion I've trusted since I was a wee boy. And the idea that he may have only said what Beth said that he said, and the students are now finishing out their year without a math teacher. I got a bachelor's degree in mathematics. Missing a month of math at this point. That's huge. So if it was really just that statement, everything about this situation stinks. It's really sad to see a great man's career go out like this.
Thank you very much. All right, we are at our 20 minutes. We have, just a second, just a minute, please. We have 3 more cards. I am fine. I'm willing to have the 3 cards go, but I would like you to keep your comments brief and to the point. If we can agree to that, I'm happy to hear the last 3 folks out. So I'd like to have Mr. Mortensen come forward, please. May I have the other 2 cards, please? Mr. Mortensen?
Jamie, can you ask if they could hear out?
Can you hear out in the other room? No? Mrs. Blosser's giving me this. Okay, so speak nice and loudly into the microphone, Mr. Mortensen. Do you think you can do that? Okay.
It is now.
Yeah.
Someone had turned it off. Okay, my name is Mr. Mortensen. I had the opportunity to attend Hillsborough schools. I also had the opportunity, the privilege, to work at Hillsborough High School as an English teacher for 31 years. To be honest and to be very frank, I shared a space with Coach Costa for 25 years. He worked with basketball. I had a small part to do with the drama program at Hillsborough High School. Oftentimes, I would be directing students on stage while he would be directing students on the basketball court. I never once, that said, there were times that I was not Greg's favorite teacher at the high school, to say the least. That said, I have always found him committed, considerate, kind, knew his curriculum, and the students loved him. There's a special place in heaven for teachers of math if their students love them. The other reason I'm here is, I'll make this very, very brief. I'm disappointed in my school board. 4 of you are educators. 4 of you know that there's always another side to the story. For many reasons, I wish my mother had not been dying, or I would have been sitting in one of those seats. Because had anyone come to me with a complaint about a teacher as wonderful and dedicated and knowledgeable as Mr. Costa, I would have looked into the situation myself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mortensen. Ondina Carter, please. Did I say that right? Ondina Carter? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I thought maybe I said it so poorly you had no idea who I was talking about. Good evening.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just a couple brief comments. One, on a personal level, I hope that when the difficult decision comes to release a teacher, however you'd like to phrase that, that you don't just take into consideration hard facts, curriculum, but also consider that, especially a teacher as loved as Mr. Costa, for many students, he's a safe place that even their friends might not know that they're not feeling safe, and school is the only place that they feel safe. And certain teachers have that special energy that just the safety, feeling of safety goes along with that. And also, I know for a fact I'm not the only parent that is looking at other options. As much as I love public education, the high turnover rate for teachers is very disturbing. My son's in 7th grade at the junior high. I know you face difficult decisions as board and an administration. I just would like to know that there's more transparency happening and that all factors are being looked at thoroughly. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And Jennifer Ortiz, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have thought about this the last week or so, whether or not I would come and stand up tonight, because as a graduate of Hillsborough High School and Hillsborough Junior High, growing up here, two of my children have already passed through both those schools, all the schools, and Dalton has already passed the junior high also. But what came to mind is that it's important to stand up for all things at all times, all places, even if it's not your time, even if your time has passed. And so in saying that, I want all the teachers here to know that I would have worn red. I have Mr. Mortensen's my brother, for anybody who doesn't know that. And another one of our brothers is a public educator, and my dad was a teacher, and my husband taught for 10 years, and he's now an administrator. And so I do see the ins and outs of the transparency and the accountability that a school board needs to have to the public, but also I know that there's bylaws and things that you guys have to go by, which quite frankly is really disappointing to the public, but fortunately that's the way it is. But in saying that, I want you to know that, well, unfortunately, I'm going to end on a good point. But the unfortunate thing I wanted to say is that I'm 40, almost 48, and after living here the larger portion of my life, with the exception of about 4 years, everywhere I go, people are shocked that I've sent my children to school in this town that I live in. And as anybody who lives here, we all know that it takes a lot of money to stay in Hillsborough, California. And it's really disappointing over and over again for people to say that this district has a reputation of chasing out teachers, high turnover of teachers, chasing out administrators, or letting administrators in because it's the good old boys club. And I'm like, how's that still happening? It's the 21st century. This shouldn't be. And so I wanted all of you guys to know, and ladies, that I feel like there needs to be changes. And I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm willing to help make the changes, even though all 3 of my children are almost finished, because This is about all the future children that live in this town. These are about these families over here who have children at the junior high and younger children. It's just not about everybody who's moved on. And it's not fair to them. These are people's lives, and life is really difficult enough besides going to school and having all the things that have happened at the junior high this year and then last year and the year before at the high school and the year before. I mean, I'm going to spare everybody all the examples. In saying that, I support all the students who went out and walked and marched with their posters. I'm very happy and proud of you. And I also support Mr. Costa 100%. Only one of my 3 children had him as a teacher.
We're at time.
Excellent teacher, and I support him. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, well, I'm thankful that everyone had a chance to speak, that put in a card, and that we were able to accommodate everyone. And I really, pardon me? No. Oh, please, come on forward. Thank you, Janine. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Adriana Zavala. I don't speak English well, but I'm gonna try, or
Ok.
somebody can
Podemos
translate.
traducir si quieres. Tenemos una traductora.
Ok, gracias. Por favor.
Vamos a compartir el micrófono, por favor.
Ok. Tengo 3 hijos. 2 de mis hijos han pasado una por la junior y ahorita está en la high school.
I have 3 kids. 2 of them have gone through junior high and are now. One of them has gone through junior high and is now in high school.
Esta semana, el lunes, tuvimos una discusión durante cena con mis hijos sobre lo que está pasando con el señor Costa.
This week we had a discussion around the dinner table with my kids about what's happening at the school with Mr. Costa.
2 de mis hijos que han estado con él estaban muy decepcionados de saber que Mr. Costa ya no va a dar clases más.
2 of my kids who have him as their teacher were very disappointed that he's no longer going to be their teacher.
Y yo como mamá también estoy decepcionada porque fue uno de los maestros que les ha ayudado a mis hijos a salir adelante. Cuando ellos tuvieron preguntas, señor Costa estuvo para contestar sus preguntas.
And as their mom, I'm also extremely disappointed because he's a teacher who's really helped my kids. When they had questions, he was there to answer their questions.
En una ocasión tuve que tomar a mi hijo y llevarlo con Costa porque no hacía la tarea y yo quería saber por qué.
So once I had to actually bring one of my children to Mr. Costa because he wasn't doing his homework and I wanted to know why.
Él me dijo por qué no lo estaba haciendo, me enseñó sus trabajos, entonces Costa y yo trabajamos juntos y mi hijo subió sus grados.
So he showed me the work and we talked it over and we worked on it together and then he improved his math grades.
So espero que tomen una buena decisión. Es un muy buen maestro y es un maestro que le gusta enseñar porque le gusta y no porque le den un pago.
And I really hope you make the right decision because he's a teacher who loves to teach and he teaches because he loves to teach and not because he gets a paycheck.
Gracias y buenas noches.
Thank
you.
Muchísimas gracias, Adriana.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to genuinely thank everyone for coming tonight. I really do appreciate you taking your time to come and share with the board. And I've received a large number of emails, and I'd like to genuinely thank you too for sharing with me. And I've shared with the board your comments, so thank you very much. That will conclude our comment on non-agenda items, and we're going to move forward. I'm looking for an approval for the consent agenda, please.
So moved.
Any discussion on the consent agenda? Okay, I think, Steve, there we go. All right, so I just wanted to point out, I always like to point out the donations that we've received. They show up on the consent agenda, but I want to make sure that folks get a chance to see those. We have such a generous community, and we really appreciate that. All right, if you have public comments on agenda items, the same process applies. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. I'd like to go ahead and vote to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. So again, if you have public comment on agenda items, go ahead and pass those forward. Yeah. Who moved? And Donna seconded? You're welcome. All right, we are moving on to item 11.1, student learning. We've got the DLAC committee coming forward.
So Lisbeth Perez is the president of the DLAC, and she is here to give our annual report with Mari and several others. So you guys quieren introducirles?
Sí, gracias.
Okay, perfecto, gracias.
Hi, thank you for having us tonight. I'm Lisbeth Perez, president of DLAC.
Buenas tardes, soy Mari Cervantes, estoy trabajando para ILAC y DILAC. Soy.
I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. I'm having a real hard time hearing you guys. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry. Just the way the room is echoing. Okay, please go right ahead. Thank you.
Start again? Okay. My name is Marisela Cervantes. Estoy trabajando para ILAC y DILAC. Soy secretaria en ILAC y también en DILAC. Y me da mucho gusto estar aquí esta noche con ustedes haciendo nuestra presentación.
Muy buenas noches, mi nombre es María de los Ángeles Álvarez. Estoy aquí apoyando a DILAC y ILAC. Estoy dentro de la mesa directiva.
Hi, I'm here to in support, and I'm part of the board of directors. Del ILAC?
Sí,
ILAC, yes, sorry.
Okay. Thank you. So we will figure out how we can do the translation. Thank you. So we can do it. So we have 3 new ILACs for next year. I would like my new members stand up or por favor si pueden levantarse o alzar la mano.
Están aquí.
Ángeles, Adriana.
Se fueron afuera.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, so but we are around like 9 new parents on these committees. We are so happy for that. It's the first time in many years that we have 3 committees for the school district.
And that's the most we've ever had. It's very good, and thank you for your leadership in
wonderful.
making that happen. Muchísimas gracias.
Esos son nuestros temas que tenemos en nuestras juntas de ILAC. Algunos son iguales tanto en la secundaria, en la high school como en la junior high.
These are the themes that we have. Some are the same in the junior high as they are in the high school.
Pero hablamos, el tema que tenemos en la primaria es, si es igual al de junior high o high school, es de acorde a los padres que tenemos en las escuelas.
So whether the themes are the same in the elementary as in the junior high or high depends on the parents that are in those schools.
Estamos trabajando tratando de tener un poquito más de padres en las reuniones. So, lo que estamos haciendo es cambiamos un poco nuestra dinámica de las reuniones.
So we're trying to get more parent involvement in our meetings, so we've changed the dynamic of our meetings a bit.
Ahora regularmente hacemos cuando tenemos diferentes temas, que tenemos a veces 3 temas en nuestra reunión, que es regularmente lo que pasa.
So we usually have 3 themes for our meetings.
Hacemos 3 grupos en nuestra reunión y estamos rotando los padres para que no sea tan tedioso estar escuchando bla, bla, bla y bla.
So we split the parents up into 3 groups and we rotate among them so it won't be so tedious. Blah, 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 you know what that means.
Y así, aunque todos los padres estamos en conjunto escuchando los mismos temas, pero es un poquito más diferente. Nos paramos un ratito para estirar los pies y reírnos con los que vienen ahí. No ser tan tedioso.
So it's, even though we all hear about everything, it's not as tedious when you get up and walk around and stretch your legs and pass the time of day as you're changing groups. So it doesn't make for the meeting to be quite so tedious.
Hemos estado colaborando con PTO, como ven aquí en el Día de los Muertos.
We collaborated with PTO, as you can see here, for the Day of the Dead.
Y nos gusta tener esto porque estamos trabajando con la comunidad, enseñando nuestra cultura, nuestras raíces, qué es lo que nos gustaría ver un poquito más en las escuelas.
So we really enjoy doing this because this gives us the opportunity to show our history and our roots to our community, and we'd really like to be able to do more of that.
Y pues no quiero extenderme mucho, pero aquí están nuestros temas que tenemos, que estuvimos viendo este año, y ustedes los pueden leer ahí porque aquí los tienen, no quiero hacerlo más grande.
So I don't want to go on too long, but these are all the themes that we dealt with this year, and you can see them on the slide and read them, so I won't take up more of your time.
Thank you.
Ok, referente al área de secundaria,
In terms of high school,
estuvimos analizando lo que fue el plan,
we were analyzing the plan,
cómo los padres pueden ayudar a sus hijos, y estuvimos haciendo invitación a los padres que se acerquen más al programa para que apoyen y qué es lo que ellos piensan, qué inquietudes tienen, y es por eso que a veces analizamos programas sobre la escuela y los temas y qué es lo que los padres quieren o preocupa sobre sus hijos.
so we tried to get more parent involvement by asking the parents to share with us what their concerns were for their children, so that we can get more involvement by having them express their concerns and what they would like for their children as a way of bringing them into the program more.
Sobresalieron algunos temas, entre ellos fue uno muy polémico que fue sobre el cigarrillo. Muchos padres de familia no conocen actualmente qué tan grave es el problema y todo lo que usan los jóvenes en la actualidad sobre los cigarrillos electrónicos. Fue muy gratificante la respuesta de algunos padres, y digo algunos porque realmente necesitamos más padres, y en los 2 años que he estado involucrada dentro del programa he visto que sí acuden más padres gracias a los cambios que ha realizado la mesa directiva y el apoyo que nos están dando.
So recently we had a very polemic discussion which was about vaping. It was very gratifying though to see that so many parents don't have any clue as to what their kids are doing and what's involved, but it was very gratifying to see the response and the involvement. In the 2 years that I've been this, I've seen an increase in the number of parents involved, so I'd really like to see this continue, this parent involvement.
En ocasiones hacemos repetitivos algunos programas, pero es por el hecho que son importantes, y cuando los alumnos ingresan a primer año, pues los padres no saben cuáles son las materias que realmente necesitan los alumnos para acreditar lo que es la secundaria. Entonces, por eso lo retomamos cada año en ocasiones, porque es sugerido por los padres que lo necesitan.
Sometimes we have repetitive programs because when the kids go through the first year, they don't really know, and the parents don't know what they will need to get accredited going forward. So we repeat these because the students really need them, and we educate the parents as to the importance of this.
Y algo muy importante también, se les hizo saber a los padres en una de las reuniones cómo ingresar en el sistema por computadora para ver cómo van sus hijos dentro de la escuela, cómo están sus materias, qué tareas tienen, qué no tienen, para que ellos sepan cómo ingresar y darse cuenta cómo va su hijo dentro de la institución.
Another really important theme that we had was to teach the parents how to get online and to access the students' records to see how they're doing with their homework and what they're supposed to be doing. So this was really important to teach parents how to get into the system online and how to access this information so they can be aware of what's going on with their kids.
¿Habla español? So, para agregar, en esta reunión identificamos que el 80% de los estudiantes, de los padres que asistieron a la reunión, no sabían usar el correo electrónico, usar la página. Así que damos nuestra recomendación, que es nuestro trabajo, traer recomendaciones al distrito acerca de tomar responsabilidad para ayudar a los padres a usar la tecnología. Usar tecnología no nada más es usar computadoras, pero saber usar el teléfono, tablets para accesar al correo electrónico y a la página de los papás de la escuela.
So we found out that over 80% of our parents don't know how to access the website or use email. So our recommendation to the board is to provide more assistance to parents with technology so that they can use tablets, use email, access the web, and all of this.
Es importante porque estamos viendo que tenemos una una población de estudiantes latinos de 1,400 en nuestro distrito. Estamos hablando que posiblemente 80% de los padres no están recibiendo correo, quiere decir que 700 familias no están revisando información en sus casas.
So we have 1,400 Latino students, and 80% of the parents are not able to access email. That means that over 700 parents and students are not getting the information from the school.
Okay. Para DILAC tenemos reuniones generales, reunimos todos los ILACs en nuestra primera y última reunión. Esta es una foto de la última reunión, hicimos un convivio cultural.
So this is a picture of a cultural event that we had with all the ELAC and the DLACs together.
Y durante nuestras pequeñas reuniones, en donde nos acompaña el superintendente y Donna, hablamos sobre reclasificación, el LCAP, diferentes temas que son importantes en nuestro distrito, así también como preocupaciones de qué es lo que pasa en las escuelas.
So during these meetings, which the superintendent and Donna came to, we talked about the importance of student attendance, and we reviewed the reclassification criteria and the revision of the LCAP.
Agradecemos a la comunidad de
We would like
Hillsborough,
to thank the community of Hillsborough,
al distrito, a JEF y a todas las personas que han colaborado para que nuestras escuelas estén en muy bonito estado, especialmente en nuestra última visita que hicimos a la high school. Está increíble, tiene salones remodelados, hay muchas cosas nuevas. Está precioso y cuando tengan oportunidad de visitar, los padres que no han visitado high school, dense una vueltita por ahí, está muy cambiado todo y está muy limpio todo.
So aside from what is written there, she mentioned that if any of the parents haven't had a chance to visit the high school, there's been a lot of remodeling. It's all very nice and new and beautiful, and really encouraging the parents to come to check out all the innovations that have been made.
Great. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry. Are you more? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
we
I thought
have
you were saying
more.
Thank you. Sorry, she walked away and I thought you were done. I apologize.
Yeah, I'm going to try to do
I'm so
this in
sorry.
English,
Okay.
just because I know that we are running out of time. This is important topic for us, and we are glad that we see this here, because for many years, we didn't have the opportunity to say segregation or racism during our ELACs meetings. And some of the minutes, we have to raise segregation and racism because some of our parents were talking about these topics. And we were saying that we are not allowed to say that because segregation is not happening, because racism is not happening either, and it's not even a good topic to have on ELACs. But I think it's a good opportunity this year, since we start the Equity First meetings, that we can talk about this topic. It's happening, and we are so sad, and we are concerned about how divides our students, our schools. We were told that we had this division because we have accelerated English, but we don't have that school anymore, and we are still having those numbers. Like, if you as a school, you told me how good is charter school, I'm going to choose charter school. You know, I don't understand why those Latino parents are there if the really good school now with the numbers that the Department of Education they show us is that they are doing really good. So why you don't, as a school, provide those kind of information, because it's hard to see that division, and I don't think that we can deal another year seeing this happening. So it's pretty sad, and hopefully you can talk more about this and don't spend more time. We need this change immediately. So I just got this figure from the Equity First meetings, and it represents what is happening at the elementary school. And so we have this when the school has good intentions to provide different programs for the different needs of our students. And you try and open the new Accelerate English, Open Charter Schools. The only thing that you did wrong is to put those separate. The only intention to have those different programs is to support those children to be together as a committee, as a family. So we deserve to be together, not even if you are giving us a different services. We deserve and we want to be together. And it's important, again, to make sure that everything is not about equal, have the same program, but it's to serve whatever it needs for our students. And we really want bilingual and bicultural education. And it doesn't mean that it has to be like person who are Latino as a teacher. It means like they really understand how the Latino people think and, and one from the people who are working with the school or for the school. So this the other thing. So this year we had this parent outreach coordinator for as a part-time. And we have this need for the next year because we're gonna have the new principal who doesn't speak Spanish. Also, we're gonna have Erika, who is gonna, try to communicate with 340 Latino parents on the, in the elementary school. We need someone who is really comfortable to talk with the Latino parents with phone calls, email, text, and more because we know, after this meeting that we as Latino parents, we are not getting those communication. We are not have access to school communication through email. So we need these people to be full-time and make sure that he or she is really, into what is happening at the school, and he or she is able to communicate that with parents. We are concerned about what is happening early this meeting, how easy is for the school say bye to teachers, how easily is say bye to programs. And we need to see the support that you give to the teachers and to our families. We are all important. You are here for serve us, and we want you to support who are you have to. And again, we want people who are able to communicate, and it means too much for us that you communicate what is your decisions, why are you taking this decision about Costa, why things happen in our district. We want more communication. We need more communication, clear communication about what is happening at the school.
Agradecemos mucho la colaboración incondicional de la subdirectora de la high school.
We really appreciate the unconditional support of the assistant principal at the high school,
Connie
Marks.
Ella no está aquí presente, pero quiero decirle big thanks por todo lo que ha hecho por nosotros, por el comité.
She's not here, but we'd like to extend a big thank you to her and to her committee for everything she's done.
Ella ha hecho la diferencia en muchas de nuestras reuniones, ya que gracias a ella que ha hecho llamadas a los padres, persona a persona, ha invitado a los padres, aparte de las llamadas y mensajes de texto y correos que salen de la escuela, ella se propuso llamar persona a persona.
So aside from all the email correspondence and the text and the calls that go out from the school, she personally took it on herself to personally call all the parents to communicate with them and invite them to these meetings. So that is greatly appreciated.
So gracias a ella, ahora tenemos más padres viniendo a high school que anteriormente.
So thanks to her, we have a lot more parents coming to the meetings at the high school than we did before.
So gracias también a Erika Maguire, Erin Ryan, al superintendente Chris Van de Hogel. Muchas gracias por estar este año con nosotros apoyando al comité.
And thank you to Erica McGuire, Erin Ryan, and our principal, Chris Van Hoovel, for being with us this year and supporting us.
A todos los voluntarios y personal de la escuela que nos ayudaron en cada una de nuestras reuniones, tanto poniendo sillas como levantando sillas y recogiendo lo que dejábamos por ahí. Muchas gracias a
Thank you
todos.
to all of you who helped us and set up the room and broke it down. Thank you for everything you did to support our meetings.
Gracias. Muchas gracias.
Great, thank you very
Thank
much.
Y yo quiero decir gracias a ustedes por su liderazgo que han tenido este año específicamente, porque hemos tenido más padres involucrados que antes y es resultado del trabajo que han hecho. Muchísimas gracias a ustedes.
Y muy impresionante la fiesta.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that presentation. The voice of DLAC has become very mature and very clear, and I thank you.
Y también quiero darles las gracias por traer su preocupación, que sé que han tenido acerca de la igualdad, de la segregación. Es muy importante que nosotros escuchemos de ustedes que esa es una preocupación. Así que muchísimas gracias por traer eso aquí en un foro público para que podamos conversar acerca de esto y tener más conversaciones acerca de eso, porque es algo que realmente es algo que tenemos que confrontar.
I want to second that. Also for your clarity on where we are in this district, where we should be in this district, and I believe where we are going in this district. Members of this board, this administration, I know we hear you. Sometimes it's slow, and I know sometimes it's painful. But please know that we are absolutely committed and know that this is your district and these are your kids that we serve.
All right, thank you. Can someone check to see if we can open those doors? It's really hot in here. See if it's, I know, if it's quiet enough that because it is hot. I see a lot of you fanning yourselves. I would like to do that, but I'm on camera right here and I don't want to. No, it is hot. If it's quiet enough out there, it'd be nice to open those doors. All right, thank you very much to DLAC. We're going to move on to 11.1B, After School Education and Safety Program Report.
So I'm pleased to invite Grace Goro, who is really the workhorse behind our after-school programs, K through 8. We get a grant from the state. We turn it over pretty much wholly to the city. And these guys do a bang-up job making sure that our kids are safe, they get a healthy snack, that they get help with their homework, they get enrichment activities. This is really their show, but I can't thank the city enough, all of you. Mark, I know, is here as well, and Dave from the city, as well as Grace, who runs the everyday and makes this thing hum. You know, I've said this before, no news is good news in my world. Officially, this is under me, but I gotta say, Grace does it all, and I really don't have to do much but fill out paperwork every now and then. So they've got some really good stuff going on. I don't want to steal their show. They've got some cool slides, so we'll get going on this.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Van de Heuvel. My name is Dave Jans. I'm the Recreation Manager with the Community Services Department, City of Healdsburg. Really want to thank you for the opportunity to come give you our annual update on the After School and ACES program. I'm here on behalf of Garrett Perdigo, who's our Recreation Supervisor, and he does a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure this program goes off smoothly. For those of you not familiar, just a little background information, the After School program caters to 3 school sites in the district, so the Healdsburg Elementary School, Fitch Mountain Elementary, and Healdsburg Junior High. For the past several years, it had been housed at our location, the Healdsburg Community Center. Prior to the start of this school year, we made the transition to have the program take place at the school sites. And I know that came with challenges, not only to our staff, but specifically to the school sites as well. So I want to take this opportunity to thank Ms. Fender, of course. She didn't give herself enough credit. I know how lengthy that paperwork takes to get done. But thank you to the administration, the faculty, to all those sites for accommodating that transition. We have seen our attendance numbers grow and really seen a greater impact on the community for that change. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the presentation over to our recreation coordinator, Grace Guerrero. She really is our lead staff person that makes this program a reality, and she'll share some of the great things that we've done this year.
So good evening, and thank you once again. It's my honor to be here. So with that note, there was a big change. We are on site now, but I do want to celebrate. We are winding down this school year, and we've been really successful with the change. So as you can see, our ACEs overview, we have had in the past 150 students enrolled when we have been at the Hillsborough Community Center. We are now up our enrollment to 196. So as you can see, the breakdown of all the students in each site level. So that is a 24% enrollment increase. And so we're very proud of that. The other thing I want to be proud of is that our after-school program is in our 12th year. And I'm happy to say that I have been with the program for 12 years. I have seen it from the bottom, and it's come up way from many years. Our staff is very, very well knowledgeable. We have provided them with a lot of staff training just due to the fact of a lot of new district programs. So we kind of move along with them and, out with the old and in with the new. So we're very proud of that. Now we're over, as you can see, always been at the Hillsborough Community Center. But for us, I think in general, having the students there on each site has allowed for parents to be more comfortable with the fact that they're not sending their students on a bus to the community center. We're just walking with the staff and the children right over to their classrooms. So it's been very successful. And with the incorporation of new programs in the district, we have also incorporated a lot of STEAM enrichment programs for our students. We have included a lot of mystery science. We've gone through Steven Spangler. We've gone with numerous of other science and other enrichment programs for our students. So part of what we like to do on a daily basis, as you can see in this slide, we like to start off just a little bit of, this isn't really school, it's after school, let's make it fun in a disguised way. So we do, incorporate daily math problems that the students are going to in groups help and support each other solve the problem. So we're kind of making a little fun games, but we kind of group together at the beginning of that. So as you can see, we have our schedule here. We follow what the school district does. So anytime that students are not in school for, any breaks, we're not in session. We follow that right after school is out, we get our students right into our classrooms. They unwind, they check in, they have their healthy snack, they have their outdoor time, and then enrichments and homework. So it's all, the students really love their routine, and it's fun to have our staff come in with a wealth of knowledge. Their interests kind of go into what the students are doing on a daily basis. So a lot of our So we have a mission and a vision, and I have a lot of those flyers here for you to have, and I can pass them out as I am finished with the little bit of the slides here. But we do have this, vision that we want to have the children. They're the reason why we're there. And so anything that we can provide for them to be successful, whether they become leaders with field trips going into our community, we are more than willing to provide those for them. And then we really like to practice a lot of being just really together as a family with the parents. And so I think it's kind of like a teamwork with all of that. So we're very proud of just making sure that everyone is taken care of, whether it's the students, parents, and staff. And a little bit of what we're doing. As you can see, we have with the new blended learning, homework piece has been a little different. So for us, we are in providing students with more enrichments. And a lot of that has to do with the staff planning their curriculum based on what is going on in on their regular school day. So we provide our trainings according to what is the new change for the school district. We have a lot of fun. They have a lot of time for parents to, come in if they would like to, and just kind of come in and enjoy just either monthly meetings with me. They're called graceful, just kind of like graceful meetings with me. And so it's just really nice to have that feedback from parents. And then and then at the junior high, we have a lot of the youth there. They really voice their opinions, let me tell you. So they, when on my daily day visit there, sometimes I really like going twice a day just because that group level is just so much fun. But they tell me what they want to see, and so it was very nice. You'll probably see in another slide there. Brought in an educational presenter from the JC, and he talked a lot about how getting to college is, very important. And so here we go. He was very, very good with the students, and the students seem to have been very engaged. He invited them to a college night at the JC, and I had some students that attended. And I was just so pleased that they were able to go and learn more about what is out there. They have passions. The youth has passion. And let's take this passion and take it a little further and go into, get to college. Back to this right here. I have been very fortunate with the bookmobile for the students K through 5th grade. And every year for the past, I want to say 5 or more years, Glenn Weaver comes to me to give students free books in the fall and in the spring. And so we're very fortunate that he comes by, and the kids just love it. And it just takes all afternoon. And this year it was going to be, well, okay, we're on site now. Can you do it for us, please? And he said, no problem. And we've been successful this whole year. Okay. And then as you can see, we've had a lot of monthly trainings. I do have provided, and I'll pass around at the end, a lot of what we have been doing as far as getting my staff well trained to be working with these students and with the new changes with the district. So that is what I have for you. That's great. If you have any questions?
I have a question. So Grace, first of all, I like the graceful parenting.
Yeah.
Oh,
good. That's great.
But so I just have a question about the transition. I think it's great that you're at the school site. It makes sense for students. That there's no need for transportation. Are you sharing space with teachers? Like, are you in the teachers' classrooms, or do you have your
You know, it has been so great when, and I have to thank Erin for this. When we were going to renew our grant, we went out and looked at the sites and possible rooms where we could be, and I have to say that we really don't need to share any rooms at all.
Nice.
Those are our
They share a
classrooms.
little bit with enrichment classes
But
that are
that's
used like
about
one
it.
day a week, and they do a great job at just negotiating it, but they are not in a full-time teacher's classroom. Yeah.
Two of the classrooms over at HES, they are strictly HES after-school program classrooms. So we've been really fortunate.
Nice. Then my last question is, so I know that especially if students stay till 6 o'clock, which is the expectation, it's a long day. So I know that there's a snack provided. Can you give me an example of what a snack is?
So, and this goes for all of the sites. So, for example, on one day they will have, for example, a protein snack with a juice. It could be yogurt, it could be trail mix, their fruit juice. They have had also a lot of healthy snacks as far as like hard-boiled eggs. They've had their sweet crackers, which is more like their graham crackers with their milk.
Our food service program provides it. So Rocio Rubio works with Grace in order to provide, and we meet all the same nutritional guidelines that the school day meets.
So it's not the food bank providing it?
No. But we also still have food. So it's food to pantry. It's not food to pantry. It's the Gleaners from Hillsburg, and they've also still have this year managed to get us fruit to our sites. So we're so fortunate with that.
Nice. Okay, thank you.
Grace, you do a great job with this, and it's wonderful to see that you've been with the program for so long to really see kind of what's needed and where to grow it.
Exactly. And so I'm very happy to continue the passion that I have for the after school program. And I'll keep doing it until who knows? Until
Well, and I really want to commend just the entire structure of this. It's so important to have a place where kids can be safe after school, for parents that work and just can't get them in time and whatnot. And I'm really thrilled with how it's dovetailed into our programs, making it fun, but supporting those activities. And I want to make sure we continue to do that, with things like even the next topic with the trauma-informed training. And are these staff that should be part of that? And we're all using the same vocabulary, and we're all, approaching these kids in a way that's really unified and powerful. So
yeah, Grace has really taken the professional development to the next level, and she talked a little bit like they changed with us. They're literally less than a half step behind us, and she's constantly advocating. And if anything, I'm like, "You're fine, Grace," and she's like, "No, we can do more. We can be better. I can get more professional development." She works with the Mendocino County Office of Ed, Malia Meyer, who's a after school expert, and she takes basically everything that Malia will offer. She never says no to the professional development. It's amazing under your leadership, Grace, and you're keeping moving and making everything awesome.
Thank you. So thank you once again for having me, and I will leave over with Erin just to pass down our flyers, just a little bit of what we have.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
both so
Grace.
much. Thank you.
I want to mention Aiden, you have somewhere to be, and you can feel free to go if you need to. Okay, yeah. He's got his, yeah.
Are you waiting to give your report? Can one of us do it for you?
We didn't adjust the agenda. Yeah, we could let you give your report before you go if you want.
All right. So, guys, he's he's a senior, and he's going to his golf banquet. So we're going to go ahead and wiggle him in.
You're not staying for mine?
Yeah. Oh, yes,
Really?
the NCS Championship golf term.
Oh, yeah.
group. Yeah. Aiden, did you give Coach Gift the banner?
Yeah,
Was he
I did.
waiting
My
for
mom
it?
brought it.
All right.
Good evening, fellow trustees and board members. My name is Aiden Click, and I'm here to deliver everyone a monthly student report. We have just finished our spring sports, and I have some exciting things to report. First off, Gabby Peterson for cross country and track was chosen as Redwood Empire's Girls Athlete of the Year, while Trey Chapman for basketball and Orion Von Rohr for cross country, soccer, and swimming were nominated as Redwood Empire Boys Athletes of the Year. In boys golf, I'm proud to announce that we won NBL Redwood Division League Championship. Our team competed at NCS and faced some very intense competition. As for our boys tennis team, they also won NBL Redwood Division League Championships with an undefeated league season. Sophomore Vikram Johnson competed in the NCS Tennis Singles Championship this last weekend. Track captured 5 individual league titles and 1 relay crowned the boys 400-meter relay at the North Bay League Track and Field Championships. The team qualified 10 individuals to go to NCS Redwood Empire meet. The football team is gearing up with 38 athletes turning out for spring ball. The team is winding down the second week of their 10-day spring practice, and coaches are very excited with the turnout of athletes. And at the junior high, our leadership class is working hard on planning on their final school dance that will be held on the June 5th with a fiesta theme. They hope to break their record for the 3rd time in attendance this year. In leadership at the high school, there's some sense of relief now that their first annual academic awards night is over and was a complete success. They are focused now on continuing their Students of the Week, which is awarded to 2 students in any grade. These students are nominated by the teachers and then chosen by the leadership class. They also plan to Spirit Week for next week to get ready for the fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Aiden. All right, Diane, we're moving on to
Hello.
11.1C. Hello, partnership between HUSD and, is it IT Hannah Institute? Is that how you pronounce it? Or
I think
Hannah?
it's going to be the International Trauma Center.
International Trauma
Yeah, I think
Center. Thank
it
you.
was just too much to put
Okay.
in the
Thank you.
tagline there. So I'm super excited to be talking about this tonight. It's been a passion of mine probably for the last 2 years, and these guys are sick of hearing me talk about it. So I'm glad that we finally found the right partnership, and I'm going to very briefly go over the work that we plan on doing in the fall. So I wouldn't have the time tonight to actually go deeper into the ACE study, and I'd be happy to explain that to anyone ad nauseum at any point in time. But just know that as we learn more about the ACE study and its effects on students and its long-term effects on health, it's a crisis. And we can estimate, based on a 2016 survey, that about 22% of our students have 4 or more adverse childhood experiences. And what they know about that is that presents a host of health issues down the road and increased rates of suicide, mental health, even heart disease, cancers, things like that. But what also comes out of it is, on a positive note, is as children, we have the ability to rewire a brain to build resilience in our students. And it's a very important time in a child's life. And we as educators in an educational institution have a profound impact on their future. So that leads me to why it relates to education. So what we know is when a student comes into us having experienced these traumatic events, abuse, neglect, divorce, deportation, there's a whole host of things that they are not ready to learn. And how that looks can look like internalizing, like they go within themselves and they're not responsive, or it can look like externalizing behaviors where, we've heard throughout the school year about students with some, pretty severe behavior issues at the elementary level especially,
at the junior high or high school level, it might look like increased drug use, alcoholism, mental health issues. So the good news is, once we learn how to both regulate ourselves and regulate our students, we can address these issues. We can turn it around, but it takes a little expertise. And that's where, dun, 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 Dr. Macy and the International Trauma Center are going to come in and help us, as well as they've partnered with the Hannah Institute and done a lot of work with schools, and Dr. Macy in particular, all across the world. He resides on the East Coast, and he's a Harvard fellow. I always joke with Aaron, he is my Dr. Roller. Like, I can call you Robert. No, you're Doctor. You'll always be Dr. Macy to me. So he's amazing, and they are so excited to do the work with us. And they've come out and they've made a presentation, so we're pretty sure that they understand our needs, they understand our students, and I really believe that they're the right people to partner with. So what they're going to do for us, and I know that you have it in your board packet, but really I said to them, and I know that Chris, and I'm hoping you'll agree, is that I'm not really interested in a one and done. I'm not interested in a one day, hup, here's what trauma looks like. Yay, now we can call ourselves a trauma-informed school. No, it needs to go deeper. And so they've really come up with a very unique certification program. And it's kind of outlined in their contract, but they will certify staff on different levels of trauma training. And so I think that's an exciting opportunity for staff. They're going to walk away with feeling really confident in their skills. And every staff member from janitor on up to administrator will be trained the same way. So the other thing that they're going to do is help us learn how to assess our students. They're going to interview staff. They're going to interview parents. They're going to train our counselors. They're also going to implement some evidence-based social emotional learning and wellness programs, primarily at the K2 level. And these are movement-based. And so what we know about movement and regulation is they are intertwined. We need to get our kids moving a lot more. And then hopefully once we pilot that, we'll be able to build it in to the upper grades. And really, that's it. The end.
Thank you. Any questions
any
for
questions?
Diane? Yeah.
I have a question. You said
Sure.
every staff will be trained?
Yep.
Do you want to ask me how I'm doing that?
I'm going to ask you how you're going to do that.
Well, so the beginning of the school year, we have some professional development days that everybody's there. So we are going to split them up between elementary and, K5 and then 7, 12, and all staff will be trained that day. After that, it will become site-based.
I'd go a little deeper.
What do you mean, like on-site?
On-site,
Yeah,
once a month,
on-site.
on-site. So I'm a teacher and I can be
Yeah.
trained. I'm a custodian, I can be trained.
Yeah, the custodians will be a little tougher. So I think the idea is to create a team.
Mm-hmm.
So after some of the initial training, they may not all be trained the same way at the same time. But as we build sort of a train-the-trainer model, we'll be able to make sure that all the classified staff have been trained, if not exactly the same way, by the exact same people with the same concepts.
And how long, if I'm a teacher or a classified, let's say I'm an aide, would it be that I would be certified? In other words, I would gain all that knowledge and I would be certified.
So I think it's 6 full days. There are 2 days per module, and there are 3 different modules. And then some of the additional days are just on-site coaching to make sure if you have questions, you want to problem solve, things like that. And so we know that there's going to be sub costs, and SCO's going to.
I'm not worried about the money right now. I'm just worried about the training.
Yeah.
Okay.
No doubt. You bring up a very good point. Classified staff we can't get subs for them all the time, but we're going to definitely do our best. And we already know that we probably will need to keep them after and pay them
I think it's great. I mean, I like the
Yeah.
long term, I like the continual training,
Yeah.
et cetera.
Yeah.
And then we have trainers of trainers, and we hopefully keep the training going on and the discussion
We will, Mike.
and the learning going on.
We will keep
Yeah,
it.
and I'll say we've kind of changed around when we do classified training. We've changed the calendar slightly. The CSEA, the union, has been great in working with us in terms of when those days happen. So there's some advanced planning that's happened with CSEA.
Sounds great.
And I mean, I probably don't need to say this, and I know we're in, but honestly, that we've already brought some 1 days, here and there, and it hands down is some of the best feedback I ever get. We need more of this. I loved it. I feel like I'm really know what to do now. So I think it's definitely in the right direction.
I have a question for you, Dan. So what is the, I think it's wonderful too, and I think it's necessary, but how will we measure its effectiveness?
I asked that, and he is going to come up with pre and post measurements. And I think what they will do is some interviews with, strategic staff, students, but also what it looks like in the classroom. So it should look different. There should be a reduction in discipline. There should be an increase in attendance. There should be overall, over time, an increase in student engagement, which would likely result in increase in grades. But they have tools to measure, and he mentions that in the scope and sequence of the work. He cites specifically the tools they'll use. But there's a rating scale and a fidelity measurement and all sorts of things. But there's anecdotal information too. I just want everybody to be happier. That's my goal.
What's kind of the time frame we're looking at, Diane? What is our hope? Do we have a?
I think it'll take all year. But
do we have a start date? Do we have
our
for
start
sure?
date is August 12th.
For sure. Okay.
Well, the admin will get our first training
January 13th.
June.
June.
Okay.
J. Yeah.
June 13th. Yeah.
Thank you. I just wasn't 100% clear on that. Thank you. Excellent work. Thank you, Diane. Excellent. All right. Moving on to 11.1, we are going to hear. Oh, I'm sorry.
action.
I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
that is an
Please forgive me. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the partnership? What is the overall the
Contract.
the contract that Diane is submitting? I'm sorry, I didn't highlight my wording here.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right. Thank you. All right. The charter annual report, please.
Hello again. So I am here to give the charter annual report. The annual report is part of the charter to come before the board every year to give an update. And it is a bit outdated. A lot of the information in here you have heard through the LCAP. The inclusion of the annual report was prior to having an LCAP, where all that information is, and also some of the information that I also have shared in previous presentations about just elementary benchmarking. So with that said, coming here to share current progress at the charter. So here we have a STAR reading assessment data looking at students that are at or above grade level and some of our readers getting cozy in Mrs. Lyons' class. But again, this shows, and as we've talked about before with STAR, the at or above grade level, they look at students' scaled score, and students who are at kind of at the 40th percentile or above are considered proficient. And so that's what this represents. And then we see our STAR math data. Students across the board in both of our programs have been doing a lot of work. This class right here is a fifth grade class, the picture, around the Joe Bowler work and mathematical mindsets. And so that work is happening across the board. This data you have seen before in Aaron's presentation of LCAP data, looking at last year's CAS scores. We're right in the middle, or finishing CAS right now. Fifth grade is finishing this week, and I'm checking every day to see if results are coming in. They have not come in yet, but these are last year's data for third through fifth grade in language arts and math in our charter classrooms. And then also part of the annual report is giving students a survey, asking them a series of questions. And so we see, and I looked back at last year, the data pretty much remains unchanged at a couple of percentage points. That's give or take, but 75% of our students feel like they belong to a community. They have fun while learning. They're challenged by the work they do. About half of them answer that question. And 73% say they're encouraged to be creative. And then in this survey, and I think this is interesting, I looked part of at Fitch Mountain, we have a team who's participating through SCO in a PBIS series, the Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports. And our PBIS team gave a student survey to all students at Fitch. We did 2 classes per grade level. That was not just charter students, 1 per program. And 92% said they felt safe on campus. And I looked at that today just in comparing, and we see I feel like that relates to this number of 90% of students, charter students at FMC saying that their teacher cares about them. The student survey is only given to 3rd through 5th grade students. And 86% saying my teacher thinks I'll be successful. And 70% of students think that project-based learning work helps them to learn to work with others and respect others' point of view. And then just some other data points. This is just within the school year, 20% of our students who were English language learners have been reclassified. Again, that's not, we just took, in April, students took the LPAC. And so we don't know, obviously, the results of that in our current CASP data in terms of reclassification at the end of the school year or starting next school year. Low suspension rates, it's 1.8%. And we're really small, so it's 2 students. And then a 96% attendance rate. And then you can see the number of students enrolled in each grade level. And so kind of continuing the work that we will embark on next year at both campuses, and I would say in both programs, is just continuing to work on math. And we have our the district math innovation design team, but both of our sites have math action plans and continuing to work through those, particularly looking at how we're teaching math on a weekly basis, but then also these big ideas in the Joe Bowler and mathematical mindsets and growth mindset work really is kind of playing a key role in that, and we're looking forward to seeing the impacts of that on our scores at the end of the school year. And then also in particular, again, across the board, both programs, but in the charter, continuing to provide training to our teachers on ELD practices and the key language acceleration principles, asking students to produce language and complete sentences, and really pushing across the board in all of our programs those principles. And then the new history social science framework, I had a few teachers participate in a social science training series. Most of it was up in Mendocino County with a couple of trainings here in Sonoma County, really learning best practices around the new social science framework, which is much different than the old standards that I taught under when I was a social science teacher. That's all about dates and remembering facts, but it's really about putting information together. And so next year, those teachers who attended those trainings will really kind of help to implement those new standards and the framework across programs at Fitch, and then also at HES campus as well. And then continuing the work around NGSS and implementing the new science standards into the work that we do, in particular around the PBL units. And then finally, we're really working hard, and I was glad everybody was here tonight to hear about our 5th grade science camp, because I really think that building community is integral to the work that we're doing at both campuses and across programs. Any questions?
Great, go ahead, Eric, go ahead.
So not a question, but I want to be on the record saying that I wholeheartedly agree with what the DLAC presented, that this is such a rich learning opportunity for our students, and the outcomes are better than our other program. And you know, I have to wonder if it's because their students are engaged. They're doing project-based learning, which is really enriching and rigorous. And in my heart, I want all of our students to have this. And so it's a whole equity issue for me. And I really want to know how we can move in the direction of providing these rich opportunities for all students.
I want to take a moment just to invite everybody. So all of I think that there's been a lot of work around, and I'll speak to what's happening, particularly at Fitchmount campus, that there's been a lot of work around integrating project-based learning in all of our classrooms. At our open house on Thursday, May 30th, all the fourth grade classes are in the middle of a whole grade level PBL that they'll be presenting at open house. And aside from that, there were other units that were done, but I'm really excited about the work that we're taking within the system that we have and the programs that we have right now. But I think there's been a lot of work, and I'm excited about it. I want to welcome you on the 30th at open house, but also anytime to come in.
Yeah, and I appreciate you doing that in the system that we have now, but we need to break down those silos, and we need to remove those obstacles and create unity and provide these opportunities to all students in a united front, the united district.
Yeah. Thank you. Anything else for Erica? All right. Thank you, Erica. All right. Superintendent Vandenhoevel is going to report out on some recent equity task force information.
So I'm going to present to you sort of raw recommendations that came from the last equity task force meeting. So you recall this year we've endeavored to have the task force to listen to our community and really examine practices and things that are going on, and then to make recommendations to the school board. And we had our final recommendation making meeting last week on the 8th. We had to get the presentation out by Friday, and so it is kind of in raw form. Next steps will be to create a very specific action plan that kind of operationalizes these various recommendations. Some of them are simple and easy to make. Others will have to be negotiated with bargaining units. Others are going to cost money, and so you're going to see me coming to you with some asks budgetarily also. And then echoing what Trustee Romo Flores just said, there is a very clear direction coming here for one elementary school in the future. And so arriving at that is part of the recommendations that they made. And I'll talk more about that in just a minute. So you can see the various meetings that we had throughout the year. So the task force convened 7 times, along with some individual and group listening campaigns that were conducted by the National Equity Project, and then town hall meetings. At all of these meetings, we had facilitators from the National Equity Project, Asha Sitaram and Mark Salinas, who are both facilitators trained from NEP. The last few meetings, we spent culling through the thousands of comments that we received, not only through the listening campaign, but through the town hall meetings, and reading little sticky notes and interpreting drawings and seeing various things, and really trying to listen and hear everybody's voice in the community for what they wanted for our schools and for their children. And so we formed into work groups to kind of endeavor to do this. The first group was around information, communication, and decision-making, systems that we have in place around those things. The second group was around how do we build and strengthen relationships within our community. We have communities within the community, and we do a better job sometimes with some and not as good a job with others. And so how do we strengthen that? Support and staffing. New learning that we need to do as a district or that we need to do with our community, and then design policies, practices, strategies, et cetera. And so I'm going to walk you through some of the priority considerations and recommendations that were made. Again, I'm happy to answer questions. This is going to be kind of a laundry list. I'm not going to go over every single thing. I'm going to try and highlight the bigger ones, and you're going to get more of a formal operational plan that will come to you in June. So the first one is from the work group around information, communication, and decision making. And the priority consideration here is how do we improve communication practices and transparency through the district. Some of the high-flying items here, increasing bilingual staff. That's been a want and a need for a long time, and we endeavor to do that in all of our hiring practices, and we need to continue to do so. A big one is a community liaison at each site. We have the parent outreach coordinator, ELAC, Lisbeth and Mari, and they talked about that today. We have a parent outreach coordinator that will be full-time, split between the 2 elementary sites next year. So we feel like we have somebody and a really good amount of time to be doing those things. We don't have it currently on the books for secondary. And so this is something that I will be coming to you to ask for in June, is that we would have a full-time community liaison split between the junior high and high school, primarily to make information flow better from staff out to the Spanish-speaking community and from the Spanish-speaking community into staff. We don't have a high number of bilingual teachers, and so we need to come up with systems to enable them to be able to communicate with their with the parents and with their students. So, and then vice versa. So that'll be an ask that's coming. Other things, back to school night is going to be a negotiable item, right? We don't have back to school night right now in the elementaries, and so we have a welcome back fair in the beginning of the year in August instead of back to school night. That was something that changed a few years ago. So that was a clear recommendation because the parents really. The feedback we got was families really enjoyed coming in, getting to know the teacher and hear specifically what's going to happen in each classroom and that kind of formal presentation. So that is something that we'll be talking with the associations about. Going on to number 2, continue to develop and strengthen ways to monitor outcomes and experiences of students furthest from opportunity to understand as proactively as possible and anticipate potential unintended consequences that emerge from any decision. So more parent engagement nights. The first 3 really have to do with exactly what DLAC said today. We know we have parents that, while they may have access to technology, they don't necessarily know how to use it, specifically email. Email is not an effective way to reach our Spanish-speaking community. We know that. We've learned that over the last few years. We've changed this year to use texting and more personal phone calls, as they talked about Miss Marks at the high school. But we have more to do, and one thing we talked about, not only at DLAC but in the task force, was setting up training nights for families so we could teach them, like actually set up a Gmail account for them and show them how to open email and access it and things like that. As well as if there's families that just simply don't have access to technology, which there will be, coming up with ways to make sure that paper gets home to them so they're getting communication or personal phone calls. Coffee with the administrators frequently at the sites. And then this one was a resounding call from the community, was to increase secondary counselor communication with students and families, particularly around college and expectations in getting to college. And so working with our counseling program to do that. Building and strengthening relationships. Number 1, creating conditions and processes for healing and repairing trust. Again, community liaisons, parent outreach at all sites came up. And that is primarily a place to welcome parents and make them know that they have access and that we are here and able and willing to talk with them, making more of a welcoming atmosphere. Again, hiring more bilingual staff. One thing that came up between grade levels, not only just in the charter, but between the 2 elementary programs, is that there seems to be different expectations for family communication. In terms of some teachers will do a weekly newsletter, some will do a monthly newsletter, some just don't do a newsletter at all. And it's been up to the teacher, and that's fine. So really trying to come up with a system that is common so parents know what the expectation is, and really highlighting and focusing on how we reach out to Spanish speakers when we do that. So we're hopeful that the parent outreach coordinator could help with some of the translation needs, et cetera. RFEP informational meetings. We've heard this over and over again, that parents want to understand the RFEP process, what it means to be an EL, how you transition out of being an EL, an English learner, into being reclassified, and what support comes after that. And so coming up with different ways to make sure that parents understand exactly what it means to be an EL and how their students will transition out. Whether this happens at a parent conference with the teacher or we have parent informational nights, there's a variety of ways we can address this. Talked earlier about different communication techniques for Spanish-speaking families. I said this last board meeting, I think, one of my biggest takeaways from the town hall meetings was that we need to have more town hall meetings. I thought it was a really healthy thing. It was great to see the community so engaged. And so that is something I think that we will look for every year, to have certain topics that come out and we're seeking engagement of the community and getting their input. I love this next one, a Spanish Institute for Teachers. That'll obviously take some money and some vision, but we're having a hard time hiring bilingual staff, so let's make our staff more bilingual, right? So that's an idea that came out of the task force, and I think a lot of teachers would be game for that, and so we'll be beginning exploring how we could possibly do that. And then adding so this is another negotiating thing that we would have to do, adding second conferences for kids who are below grade level in the elementary schools specifically. So currently we have parent conferences after trimester 1, and then it is a very common practice in elementary schools to have parent conferences after trimester 2, particularly with students who are not meeting grade level or benchmark. We don't have that practice right now. And so that was talked about, and it was a desire, and actually came from our teaching staff. So that'll be something that we'll be talking with the association about, how we can build that in the future. And then actually, more supports for kids so they don't slip through the cracks. So conferences are one of those, and there was talk about re-implementing the student-led conferences and family nights that were at Healdsburg Junior High prior. Building and strengthening relationships, capitalizing and marketing the value of diversity in our schools. So one of the things to do this is whole school community events. And we just saw a great one with the 5th grade field trip where the charter and HES went together. And it's fantastic that we were able to pull that off. We combined the winter sing-along event a few years ago. It's been a great success. So finding things that we can do together to break down the barriers that exist. A great opportunity this Friday at the Spring Fling. That'll be at the Fitch Mountain campus. And then working groups. So we're going to form several working groups. Not exactly sure exactly which ones we'll do right off the bat. One of them will maybe be more social, a working group about how we get parents out of their comfort zone and interacting with each other across social groups or across communities. Spanish-speaking parents with English-speaking parents. How can we get more cross-cultural communication happening with our parent groups? Incorporating Spanish language acquisition for all students. So I heard loud and clear, we heard loud and clear from the community that there is a strong desire for there to be a strong Spanish component in our elementary schools. And I would love to build something, I told a teacher this today, I would love to build something where we have a clear program in Spanish in the elementaries, and students go to the junior high, and by the time they get to the high school, they're walking into Spanish 3 and accessing AP Spanish as a sophomore or junior. No matter what their native language is. And I think that's something we can accomplish. We have the staff to be able to pull it off, and we have a community who wants it. Readdressing the true purpose of 21st century learning to include the value of diversity. We live in a diverse world where social, emotional skills are as important as academic skills, and that the idea of being able to collaborate and learn from one another and value each other's differences are very important. Creating students who are empathetic and can see others' points of view are going to be tremendous skills that they will need in the future. And so talking with our parents about the value of diversity and what their students get by being in a diverse setting will be an important thing moving forward. And we might form a group around that, about how best to do that. I don't know if we do parent book groups or we have different programs come in. We do implicit bias trainings with the community, but we'll have a working group that looks at ways to be able to accomplish that. Moving on. So support and staffing. More after-school tutoring opportunities and support for ELL students came up. Paraprofessionals in the elementary, particularly at K1, and that is something that Aaron is going to talk about, and the HEF initiatives, that's something that we're going to look for next year. And this is a big one. This is kind of the one that's been the elephant in the room for a little over a year now. We are going to form a working group and do a design process that examines the best elementary program to configure and establish one elementary school. That is the recommendation from the community. It was loud and clear through the task force. It will come to you as a recommendation. I'm not saying this is my decision and it's made. Please don't hear that. But that was a clear recommendation. That does not mean, and I had some staff who misunderstood, maybe I wasn't clear. We will still have an HES campus and an FMC campus, right? Well, I don't think anyone's looking at changing grade level configuration from TK2 to 3.5 on different campuses. But really what this is addressing is having Healdsburg Charter School and the blended program at Healdsburg Elementary School, having two separate schools. And so we will form a working group with your blessing to begin looking at best ways to do that. One thing that came through loud and clear from the community that's not on here is that project-based learning, as Araceli was just saying, is a necessity and will stay on and is a definite want and need from the community. I taught in a project-based setting. Aaron is a project-based learning trainer certified. We believe in project-based learning. It's not going to go anywhere. I want everybody to hear that. But this is something that our community is asking for, and frankly, I think it's the right thing to do. So in doing so, we will hope to eliminate practices and structures that separate students by language and race, and we'll continue to look at other ways that may happen in our schools. This is another kind of big one, and it would happen a little faster. And actually, let me back up. The one school idea, a working group would be put together, beginning this summer and really hit the ground running in the fall with the idea of coming in January forward to the board with a recommendation on what our elementary school, if we were going to go to one program, would look like. And so we would have parents, we would have staff, we would have community members involved in talking about the wants and needs of the community, maybe going and looking at some different elementary programs to see what best practices are, and then coming back with recommendations. One kinder program. So we thought on the Equity Task Force that we may be able to pull off having one single kinder program next year. Again, I am not saying this is a decision made. This is simply a recommendation. It will be your decision, depending on how things go, possibly next board meeting in June. So the idea would be, well, let me back up. Kindergarten is kindergarten. We don't have blended and charter really in kindergarten. There's 2 charter classes, and then there's the HES kindergarten class. The pedagogy is very similar. They all do station rotation. They all have carpet time. They're doing phonics. They're learning to read. They're learning to write. The one discernible, well, there's 2 discernible differences. First, we have that artificial separation by race that happens for whatever reason, and we all think that needs to stop. And then secondly, we have project-based learning really happening robustly at HCS, and we don't have it necessarily in the HES kindergarten class. And so what we would like to do is to address that, combine them into just 3 kindergarten classes that are, they would, and I'll tell you why in a minute, but they would be under the HES name and school. And project-based learning would be a huge part of all of them. It would be infused. The biggest benefit, besides the fact that everybody will have project-based learning, is that we will be able to truly integrate our classes, right? So we won't have anybody separated by language or race. We also would accomplish something. Right now, if we went on paper, we have 22 or so kids signed up for the 2 charter kindergarten classes next year, and we have 12 signed up for the HES class. If we combine into 3 classes, we could have 18 or so students in each class. We are going to be working with HEF to fund 3-hour paraprofessionals in each of them. So we'd be able to achieve pretty low class size with an extra adult in the classroom, with rich project-based learning, and we believe just have a great kindergarten program as HES. The reason we do it as HES really has to do with the after-school program. The ACES program is funded through a grant from the state. It goes to schools that have high rates of poverty as measured by free and reduced lunch. HES qualified for that grant. Therefore, every student who attends HES automatically is granted free entry into the after-school program. So by making it part of HES, every student in the kindergarten would have access to this free after-school program. So there's a definite benefit for everybody there. So that is the thought. I ran this, or Erica ran it by the HES Governance Council a week ago. I ran it by the Charter Governance Council yesterday. We had a great discussion. They were in favor, with the caveat that PBL lives on, and they made that abundantly clear. And nobody is arguing. We do want PBL to live on, but I think small class size, diverse classes, truly integrating our classes, and rich PBL for all is really a selling point for our community. So that is something that I would be bringing to you in June. We will need to revise the charter if we're going to do that. It's just some very minor revisions because there would not be a kindergarten charter program next year. So it would involve having a charter revision come to you in June. We'll have to do an emergency, actually, Charter Governance Council meeting for them to be able to revise it beforehand. So, but if it pleases you, I'll bring that back in June. And then creating clear communication that includes growth, a support system in case of decline, and to create a clear objective specifically for students who have been reclassified. So continue to work with our reclassified students. We have our RFEP mentors and tracking them and making sure they're continuing to track after they're reclassified and on track for college. Big one here too, understand how implicit bias impacts learning, decision-making, interactions, and relationships. So we are working actively soliciting different trainers for implicit bias training next year. Hannah, or the International Trauma Center, the Hannah Institute, they highly recommend that it be done in tandem with the trauma-informed training and that it is an ongoing thing, not just a one-off. So I've talked with several different folks, including the National Equity Project, and it is what we anticipate starting our year off with, along with the trauma training, and then there will be some continued training. There's different systems depending on the provider that we go with. Some will make site teams, others will continue to do it with the whole site, but there will be a cost associated with that. So we will be bringing that forward, but it's something that we feel very strongly about. Increasing opportunities for parents to learn how to provide academic support at home. So parent outreach coordinator is a big part of this, but continuing to have parent nights and reaching out to folks so they know how to support their kids. One idea was, again, around ELs and reclassification, having meetings at the school with students when they become an EL, explaining what's going on, what this means, what the expectation is in terms of reclassification, and then working with folks as students progress and reclassify so that they understand where they are in the process. How that looks, I'm not exactly sure, but it could be something that's done, as a group and then goes into parent conferences or whatnot. So really being intentional about that. Again, implicit bias comes up, and developing shared language and understanding of equity, racialization, systemic oppression, and a clear equity imperative and lens to drive actions and decisions in the district. That has to do not only with teachers, as it says there, but with administration and the board. So one of the things I will be approaching you about is doing a board workshop with implicit bias training for us. So because we are the ones ultimately that are making the decisions and the vision and the goal setting for the district. And so it's important that we have a strong equity imperative and lens also. Shifting discourse around EL students. Again, more bilingual, bicultural staff members at the sites, especially in the offices. One school in the elementary program came up again, a strong Spanish program in elementary, with the one-on-one meeting with parents of ELs when they enroll. Making sure EL students have access, it says to high classes, but those are advanced classes, potentially in the high school, and that they're in a setting where they're going to have academic language and be exposed to that with role modeling. Professional development for office staff on how to build relationships and trust with Latinx families, so we'll be looking into ways to do that. And again, culturally relative events that bridge the cultural divide. We had a wonderful multicultural day the other day at HES with Baile Folklorico. The Maggie Acala's class did the Jarabe de Tapatio. It was awesome to see the kids in full dress doing the national dance in Mexico. And so more opportunities to do things that are culturally relevant. And like we talked about, the DLAC fiesta that happened last week was wonderful. And one of our high school students was out there singing in Spanish. It was great. So more of those to get folks involved in the life of the school. And then finally, one of our working groups, as we look at how to capitalize and market the idea of diversity in our schools, is finding another public school with similar demographics who's done the same thing, going out and doing visits. Shared language around equity, parent education, maybe doing some community implicit bias nights. So talking to folks about their own implicit bias and then bringing it up. An idea was that we kind of do an initial onboard of everybody as much as we can, and then every year when kinder parents come into the system, we talk to them about it so that we can build this capacity from within as their students matriculate. Extensive professional development about equity, implicit bias, and then a college-based culture that recognizes that while students might have different definitions for success, that we are going to set milestones that are high and expectations that are high for each student, and that teachers and administrators and counselors and everybody are working together to make sure that we grab the kids when they're falling short, and we're doing everything we can to keep them on track so that ultimately college is their decision and they didn't have a decision made for them in our system. So we want to make sure that we have that culture in place and start extremely young, starting in kindergarten. You go to HES right now, you see the college pennants in the hallways, and we actually march our high school graduates through the hallways in a little parade at the end of the year so they can see what they're looking for. So again, one school comes up, one school with the best attributes of each program, paras, especially in the early years of elementary, PBL in all classrooms explicitly called out from the task force, one kinder program for next year. We will need to do PBL training for untrained teachers. There is work to be done around ELD. Some of it needs to be integrated. Do we have any kind of pull-out model for ELD? Some questions that we need to ask as we look towards one school. And then reviewing after-school program structure. This is a big one. The ACES program is wonderful. It's on our campus. It has some limits because of the grant that it comes from, right? Because HES is free, and if you're from charter, it's not free. And then we have competing programs. There's the Boys and Girls Club,
It's
which is
free if they have a free or reduced price lunch.
The Boys and Girls Club is very cheap. Right? I think it's $5-10 annually or something. So there's an opportunity there. There is an aftercare program on the day camp that's on the Fitch campus, which is private, right? And so what ends up happening is we have kids going in different places, and this problem of segregation that we see in our elementary schools plays out in our after-school programs. And so really being deliberate and intentional and looking at that and how we can change that. Ultimately, what we'd like to have is everybody together in one program. I don't want to step on toes. I don't want to put a program that's been around forever out of business. So being creative and figuring out ways that we can address this. There was talk about school buses for sporting teams, that there is sports bring people together, and time together on the bus brings you together. And there's definitely some frustration from parents that we don't have a bus for every athletic event. I agree, it would be awesome. It's extremely expensive. So that'll be something we talk about and we look at possibilities, but I can tell you it comes at a very high price tag. So, but it is a great idea, and doing more sporting events, even going down into elementary so we can bring people together like we had the Fiesta de Fútbol earlier this year, is great. So, and then universal design for learning, training, and implementation to address diverse learning needs in the classroom. Again and again, we heard that our students all have different needs and we want them to be together, but we also want their unique individual needs met. And so we're gonna need to equip our staff to be able to do that and differentiate. Trauma-informed practices and implicit bias is part of that. Eventually getting deep into UDL will be part of that too. Principle, so create a policy and program that families have one-on-one meetings. So this came up again repeatedly. I've kind of talked about this already. So whether it happens with the principal initially and then with teachers, we'll figure out. But we hear loud and clear that we need a better job of making sure parents understand what it means to be an EL. So next steps, developing a specific action plan for board approval in June. I'm going to be working with kind of an ad hoc committee from the task force. So folks will come in and we'll be working together to prioritize, say what we can do now, what needs to be negotiated, what's going to cost, and we need to make some decisions about, et cetera. And then working groups. Combined kindergartens, I think, is something we can do now. I think it is something that is not hard to do. It will be a little bit of, it'll make waves in the community, quite honestly. I spoke with Erica and Aaron Fender about it. We are on board, you know, and our plan is to begin divvying up the prospective kindergarten students for next year and calling their families individually from an administrator to explain what we're looking at. That, yes, we may be losing the charter moniker in kindergarten next year, but the essence of charter, which is that rich project-based learning, will live on, and this is why we're doing it, because we're going to have truly integrated diverse class sizes and classes, small class size with a para. And I think once people hear from an administrator and hear what they're going to get and what their child's going to receive as a result, I think they'll be on board. So we're gonna really take a personal approach to that. Implicit bias training for you and for all staff in the fall of 2019. So we'll be working towards that goal. And then establishing subcommittees or working groups specifically around this idea of one elementary school. Again, the timeline would be working through the fall to come up with a recommendation in January that then we'd begin to implement in 2021. And then obviously there's a number of these things that would need to be negotiated. So we would need to, when we begin negotiations next year with our various bargaining units, talk to them about some of these changes and see what we can do together. So any questions? Or actually, I think there's public comment before we do questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
We do. We have 3 public comments requests for this agenda item. The first one would be from Lillian Fonseca, please.
Good, before I fall asleep.
Thank you.
My eyes are about to match my red shirt.
So, Lily, we're going to use the timer again. Same drill.
No problem. You know, I'm a member of the Equity Task Force, and I'm also a member of the group that originally kind of came up with the whole idea, presented it to the board. And so I have a real vested interest in this whole process. And I appreciate what Chris just shared, the PowerPoints. I helped create that. I mean, I was recognizing some of the notes that we read every single thing that everybody wrote. We looked at everything. We took it all into consideration. But, you know, what I want to say is we already know what our community wants. We already know what parents are saying. We already know what some of the staff has concerns about. And I don't think we need to have to wait for an action plan to start putting it into action already. We could start behaving with transparency. We can start being a little bit more compassionate towards one another. We can begin to actually create the changes that our community wants to see happen. And I think that it's just going to be a mindset. After I heard my hermanas speaking on the ELAC presentation, I really hear what they're saying. You know, equity means giving all students what they need in order to be successful learners. And right now, I don't think we're quite there yet. And, you know, these are my last few days in this district after many years of very devoted and dedicated time with all the students and staffs here. And, you know, I'm lucky enough to have worked at all the schools in this district and at elementary level all the way up through the high school level. And I have seen the needs of our Latino students grow even more as our population grows. So I'm just saying the National Equity Project leaders are leaving. They're going to leave us on our own now. So we can't be lax. We have to stay vigilant. We have to keep going forward, and we have to put these things into action. We can't just make a report and say, okay, we've done it now. We got to actually do it. We got to move forward. Our community is speaking. We have to listen. Thanks.
Thank you, Lillian. Okay, Holly Fox, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Sorry, my voice is totally gone, but I'm here to share what I have to say. So, good evening. My name is Holly Fox. I am the mother of an incoming kindergartner, and I would encourage you to support the recommendations from the Equity Task Force. And I would especially like to speak in favor of the proposed changes to kindergarten for next year. These changes, as described by the superintendent, would make small classes and the popular and effective project-based learning available to all of our students, all of our kindergartners. This is a vital first step towards rebuilding our elementary school programs into one school. Our students can and should learn together. And I am hopeful that my son is lucky enough to attend a unified school throughout his time at Healdsburg Elementary and Fitch Mountain. While in many ways these changes to kindergarten are superficial, I urge you to do whatever you can to make this kindergarten setup successful. Keep the classes small. Find the money to provide the aids. Make sure the teachers, whether they are PBL veterans or new to it, have what they need to teach these students with this curriculum. This is an incredible opportunity to improve our school for our youngest students.
Thank you, Holly. And Rose McAllister.
Hi.
Hi.
I didn't realize that I was going to have the opportunity to speak on this tonight, but I'm really glad that I get to. My name's Rose McAllister, and I'm a longtime charter parent and the chair of the Charter Governing Council. And we have two children currently in the charter school, a son in 3rd grade and a daughter in 2nd grade, and we also have an incoming kindergartner. And so I want to emphasize some of the things that Chris said from the parent perspective. And also I've been very involved for 5 years in the charter program. And I have a great love for project-based learning and what it's done for our children. And also I've spent a lot of time in the classroom as a volunteer and seen and feel like I know many of the students personally and have seen the way this curriculum sparks wonderful things in their education and gives them such amazing opportunities for collaboration and individual thinking, but also great kind of communal work. They learn public speaking. They learn a kind of respect for themselves as learners that I think is really remarkable. And I'm thrilled about this move towards having all of our students and in Healdsburg have access to this education, which I think is so extraordinary in so many ways. So I want to say that with an incoming kindergartner myself, I'm thrilled about the possibility that there's going to be a combination of both HES and HCS in kindergarten next year. And I just want to emphasize several things about that. First, I obviously feel very strongly about the PBL curriculum, and I personally, and I think I can speak for many parents, would love to see our children spend less time in front of screens and more time doing field studies and more time collaborating with one another and more time working with their teachers, you know, through that personal relationship. And I've seen that happen successfully quite a bit in the course of my kids' education. How am I doing on time? Okay. So I think integral to this transition are several things. The first one I would emphasize is that promise of a small class size, or that emphasis on a smaller class size, I think, is really, really important. And I think the classroom aides are also really, really important, that for this curriculum to be as successful as it can be, it has to be an orderly environment, and that involves plenty of adults. And in the past, there was lots of parent volunteers, and that has since become less of, it's not a thing as much anymore. And I think aides have to fill in that gap to make this curriculum really work for students. That's just my personal experience from what I've observed, the small class size and the aides. And I also think that teachers should have more access to the resources that they need by request. That we had behavioral issues at HES that were severe this year, HCS, HES, and I think teachers need to be able to ask for what they need, resources, and whether that's language learning, whether that's more behavior assistance, whatever. And I think that has to be a component. And the last thing that I'll say is that I think it's a great idea for administrators to reach out individually to the incoming kindergarten families. For many of the families, I know this is their first child going to school, and they feel like they're jumping off a cliff, because everyone feels that way, I guess, when their first child goes to kindergarten. And so establishing trust and understanding of what this transition is integral on a one-on-one, I can ask you the questions and I need answers kind of basis. But I also think that the community needs a very transparent and regular kind of communication about what this transition is all about, so that we're not having a bunch of gossip and hearsay about what's up next, but that people understand what's going on and that we're talking about it again and again and again in an open way.
We're at time.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. All right, did anyone have any questions for Chris about?
Just real quickly, Lily, I apologize, that my most important slide is a thank you to all the task force members. So Lily and Lisbeth are both in the audience, but thank you for your participation. It's just a list of folks. Not everybody was always there, but everybody made an effort, and it was a really good group that we really worked well together in a collaborative manner.
So no question, but I just want to commend you for initiating this committee and reaching out to the equity, what is it, the
National Equity Project.
Yes, thank you. It's super exciting to see these recommendations, and I can't wait to see some of these put in place. So thank you for your leadership, and thank you for this group that volunteered their time or worked, give up a lot of their precious hours to do this important work on behalf of our community.
Yeah. And National Equity Project isn't necessarily leaving us. I have a phone call with them next week to talk to them about how they can continue to stay on board and help guide us through the process. So.
Good. Okay. All right. Any other questions for Chris?
No, just I think that the results from this, even though it's kind of feels slow and I'm impatient, a lot of people are impatient, but doing this as a community, this is a community issue, and I think this was a really critical step to getting where we are, and now with the ability to take some action and to do it as quickly as we can in a way that makes sense and is communicated. And I also would like to see in parallel the board relooking at the vision that we have. I know we have our mission statement up on the board in between presentations, and there's nothing wrong with it, but I really, really believe it needs to be updated, and that we need to create a vision that's really about celebrating the diversity of our community.
Agreed.
As we've said, and that becomes one of the primary keys of the vision that we have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would just add there's so much great information and opportunity and ideas to use this as a springboard to move forward. I think so much of our conversation is about, we just swim in circles, it seems like, during our conversations a lot of the time, but I'm excited to see all the proposals and the opportunities for us to move forward. And I really thank you, Chris, for starting us off with this. And it's not just our schools, it will affect our whole community and build the community where we need it to go. So I really thank you for that, really do. All right, we're gonna take a break.
Mike?
All right.
Well, I just, again, echo everything that was said. And this past year with this, with the equity team has not been easy for the members. It's emotional, it's difficult, it's challenging. You think you make steps and then you feel you went back 3 times and then you go forward. But what this team has put together is outstanding. I had no idea. I was the person, well, and you didn't tell me all this was going on. I was the person going, come on, let's go. And you guys have been going, and I'm thrilled. Thank you. And thank you for your leadership, and thank you to all the members. And I love the diversity on the team. Thank you. Look forward to it. And I want to thank the 3 people that spoke, the 2 kindergarten parents. We hear you, at least I hear you. And I agree with you, Lottie. Now's the time to get moving, and I think we are. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, we're gonna take our 10-minute break now, please. So 8:40 we'll return. Moving on to 11.1F, Healdsburg Education Foundation initiatives.
So I'm going to try to go really fast. I'm not sure where it is, what rule exactly, but there's some rule about ending by 9. So we got a lot of ground to cover. This is important information, but we'll bring this back in June for approval. This is a discussion item, an informational discussion item. So first of all, big thanks to the Healdsburg Education Foundation. These are the things that they are funding this year. The halftime parent outreach and education coordinator, TOSA, that Aida Pacheco has been working in for TK through grade 5. That's $50,000 from the John Jordan Foundation. We do have a promise from the John Jordan Foundation to make that full-time for next year. Because it's full-time, we are going to be flying that position. So that is good news there. That'll be full-time next year, thanks to the John Jordan Foundation. So these are the things, again, that they're funding this year. The mental health counseling at Healdsburg High and for Marcy Becerra Academy students, that doesn't have a number. It was fluctuating around $35,000 to $45,000. It looks like it's going to come in at about $45,000. So the total is around $282,000. It might inch up towards $300,000, and that is a nice chunk of change that allows us to do some amazing things that are here on this list. Other things that we haven't talked about so much publicly, but I think it's important that we do get what are called donor-directed donations through the Healdsburg Education. And this is when a community member says, it's not on the list that this district is actively seeking additional funds for, that we don't get from federal, state, and other funds, but they have an interest in these particular programs. So the Share family has been a great donator of the arts in Healdsburg and has funded the Arts, Media, Film, and Music Academy at College and Career Academy at high school over the last 2 years for a sum of $43,000. The same family also provides for Meet the Masters Art Enrichment. So we have additional art enrichment at our grades TK through 2 site. And we have a promise from the Share family to continue that for next year. So we're very excited about that. That's a donor-directed. Morning Grumble, we got a nice chunk of change. That was an anonymous donor. The Zanzi Trust put in, you can see, $50,000 all over the district. So our libraries across the district, HES, HGH, and FMC, each got $5,000 gifts to improve their lending library. You guys have been approving massive amounts of materials that our librarians have been getting rid of, old materials, and we've needed to update to align to the new Common Core and more modern topics, particularly for the inquiry-based learning that we're doing. And our very vibrant CASA, the construction arts program, also gets a nice chunk of change from donor-directed. So this is where we're going for 2019-20. This is a process. It takes about 6 months. We work as a district leadership team to come up with the priority list that then I present to the programs committee of HEF. And I want to say they've done a great job even without an executive director. Dana Grandy kind of holding on, and also under the leadership of Dennis Agnos as the board chair, to stick with committees and to stick with a process. So district leadership team puts together a list. We have a pretty formal conversation with the programs committee about where our priorities are. So these are the items that we put in front of programs. Then programs and development committee of HEF meet together and they discuss, what can development raise money for? What's the appetite in the donor community? What is the district asking for? And they have that conversation. HEF had a board meeting last night where the recommendations of the combined programs and development committee came forward, and they color code it. Red meaning, this is going to be a tough one. Let's a wait for that. Yellow, we've got some interest here. Let's talk about it. Let's keep it on the pile. It's a maybe. And then a green is, we're good. We're going to handshake across the table. We are going to do everything we can in our power as your Healdsburg Education Foundation to raise for that money. Put it in your budget. This is one of those I mentioned. It started out small, and we've done some good work. We know, as we've all heard tonight, that there is plenty more work to do. So this will be going forward. Real quickly, too, is process-wise, I said this is a discussion item. HEF will need to approve in their board meeting what they are officially going to raise for. So I'll bring this back to our regularly scheduled June board meeting for your approval. So it'll be part of the budgeting process here as we move forward with LCAP. It'll be part of all of that approval that happens in June of budget items. So you'll have the next month or to think on this and ask some further questions around the community as well. Continue with mental health counseling. You might remember that we have had services from SOS for the high school and Marcy Becerra students for many years, but the mental health situation in the county has changed. We were told that if we wanted to keep that service for our students, we were going to have to come up with the money. So we turned to the Ed Foundation. They raised quite a bit and actually have a little bit of carryover for next year. So this is like a greenish yellow on their list, like mostly green, a little bit of hesitation, but I'm feeling pretty good that they're going to be able to bring this through the gates for us. English language development, we have traditionally, this has been a big ask for us, and we're trying to get better at being self-sustaining in this as a district and not rely so much on external consultants and Heidi Koski Consulting. That said, we continue to want to provide services to make sure that our students at the Fitch Mountain Preschool and their teachers receive high quality English language development while they're at the preschool. And so this money helps to provide about a day a month to our preschool teachers at Fitch Mountain, and we want to continue to do that. There's unfortunately a fairly high rate of turnover of preschool teachers, largely due because it doesn't give a great wage. They're not credentialed teachers, so we want to provide continued support for our preschool teachers at Fitch Mountain. We will have a new ELD teacher at the Healdsburg High School and a veteran teacher who will be new to the position at Healdsburg Junior High, a bilingual educator that's been with us for a long time at the junior high, but has not done integrated and designated ELD in its new form with the new framework. So we want to provide support for those teachers. And as it says, continue to provide support for refinement in both the TKK at both schools as we get closer. And then there's some 2 days a week for administrators in there. So that comes to a sum total of $60,000. This has usually been an item that was funded by Fund the Future in their early literacy initiative. So Fund the Future is a part of the Wine Country Weekend. The board there, during the aftermath of the fires in particular in the last 18 months, has thought hard about changing their focus, and they're still undecided. So the Fund the Future board does not know whether you're going to stick with early literacy initiatives. And thus, this is one of those green with a little yellow on there, because if that flips, we're all going to get nervous about that. So hopefully more information on that in the coming months. Ooh. This is a long-time project, the work-based learning coordinator / internship coordinator. We heard, from our students at the last meeting of the internship. So this is a partial salary of what Shelley Anderson does for us. This is a nice pet project for them, and just a really amazing, award-winning program. So that's a bright green yes from the Healdsburg Education Foundation for next year. I think this next one's going to garner a whole lot of interest. So we've put forward paraprofessionals for our 3 kindergarten and 2 first grade charter classrooms. We will have 2 first grade Healdsburg Elementary classrooms. We're anticipating very small classes in those right now based on enrollment, 12 to 14 students per class in first grade Healdsburg Elementary. Healdsburg Elementary, each grade level already has a designated full-time paraprofessional. So first grade Healdsburg Elementary will continue with a district-provided full-time paraprofessional as we have this year. So this is providing 3-hour positions for the 3 kinders and 3-hour positions for the 2 Healdsburg charter. This is a yes from Yay. This is a yes from Healdsburg Education Foundation. They're excited. There's a lot of parent support, a lot of donor interest in this. I'll say that there is a HEF board member who has already pledged $8,200 and $150 of his own money, 10%, as a match to parents to donate to HEF. So they've already raised over $8,000 for this as a match if we can get at least that from the parent community. So that's exciting stuff, and we met this morning to talk a little bit about staffing and what that's going to look like. So we hope you approve this as well. Diane talked about the professional development, and Chris mentioned the unconscious bias training that we've got queued up to do and really be our focus for our professional development in the 1920 school year. We're trying to land on a provider for our district kickoff day around the implicit unconscious bias. Hannah has some folks that they work with. National Equity Project has been with us. It's a little bit about cost and about melding and where it makes the best sense to move forward. So we know we're going to do district kickoff day will be an unconscious and implicit bias training for all staff. And that's, Mike, where we get many of our classified staff to participate. And so this is at a price tag of $60,000. This also helps us out with the work that we're going to be doing throughout the entire year with the Hannah Institute to increase that awareness and response about trauma and how we as educators can better help our students in that regard. This is also in the green pile from HEF. This is looking good. Healdsburg Elementary School field trips. We have been able to provide many more field trips for all of our students, regardless of home income, as Erica mentioned. We do ask for donations from all families, but we know that not all families can make a donation, and that sometimes $5 is the difference between protein on the table and a child going on a field trip. And we want to make sure that nobody ever gets the sense that they won't be able to go on a field trip, no matter what school they're at or who they are, where they come from in our community. So we've increased the number of field trips that our kids have been able to go on through increased funding from the Healdsburg Education Foundation. There's a desire to work more closely with the PTO on this in order to have a more consistent message about who's raising money for field trips, what field trips are being paid for. So we need to get, as a district and Ed Foundation and PTO, a little tighter about messaging to families so they don't feel like they're being nickeled and dimed by every organization, and that there's a clear message about how we raise money for field trips and who it provides for. We have, as a district, always made sure that all students who want to go on a field trip can. So when the high school goes on a field trip, junior high, Healdsburg Charter, Healdsburg Elementary, we do use site money and district funds if we run short on donations, no matter where the kid goes to school. So this used to be the RFEP mentor. We're changing things up here a little bit. So we went out on a limb 3 years ago when we started RFEPing so many students, particularly students that should have RFEP before they got to junior high and high school. And we wanted to make sure that as they RFEP'd and as we RFEP'd in large numbers, that they continued to rise and they continued to soar with us in all aspects of their life. So we've had a wonderful teacher doing this at the high school. This is the 3rd year. We also, for the last 2 years, have had this position at the junior high. The junior high position is paid for by the district. The high school position is paid for right now by the Ed Foundation. The change in this is that kids aren't RFEPing as late anymore. We're doing a real good job of RFEPing kids 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade. And so the need now, as it says, is not only to continue to mentor and monitor those redesignated students, but if you go down to that second black bullet, to advise and case manage our long-term English language learners at the high school. We've got about 21, 22 English language learners at the high school this year, total, completely. But about 17 to 18 of those are long-term English language learners. Most of them have been in our system since they were kindergartners, and we haven't yet been able to RFEP them. That's concerning. And so we know we need to strategize with students and families to assist them in accelerating that RFEP process. No child should graduate from Healdsburg High School with an RFEP tag next to them. So there's a little deeper work that may include home visits, that may include more helping with social services and better understanding why academically we haven't been able to help these kids and get them where we know we want them to be before they leave our system. So we'll continue monitoring. The teacher that's been doing it has systems in place. So we'll continue to RFEP. We've been doing it for 3 years. We feel like we got a handle on that, and we're ready to add another component to support our long-term English language learners. This is a yes. This is a solid yes from the Healdsburg Education Foundation. So the total request right now sitting on the table is over $400,000. That likely is going to go down. We're going to probably get into the high threes. That's where their target has been for the last couple of years as they raise somewhere around 350, 380. So I mentioned we're going to have a little bit of rejiggering to do before we bring this to you guys in June for official approval. I think you're going to see some of that come likely out of possibly a stronger partnership with PTO, possibly some changes to how and where we raise for English language development coaching. So we'll see where that lands. Other things, we always have a wish list. We always have way more, right? We want 400,000 plus all this other stuff. We know we can do a better job of helping kids bridge the high school career to the post-secondary and where they're going. Our counselors are very busy with lots of different things, and we know that we can do better, particularly around making sure they're getting all the information, they're filling out the FAFSA, they know what colleges they want to go to. So 10,000 Degrees works with a very small number of our students. So we like to expand either that partnership with 10,000 Degrees or possibly hire something like that would be somewhat like a college counselor. So that's still in conversation. It may be a partnership, it may be something, but it comes at a pretty stiff price tag because it's a staff member. It's a full-time staff member with full-time benefits. We've always had this coaching and training for mathematics teachers. This is something that we have spent a lot of money on and a lot of time and energy as a district in the last year and a half, praying for those CAS scores. But our early data, and we have something to show for it tomorrow. Our junior high is going to be doing a public lesson study, and that has come from some of the coaching and training and assistance that we've gotten from the California Math Project and our county office. Our two teachers at the 6th and 8th grade are going to be doing a public lesson tomorrow, and we're having people from the California Math Project, from Sonoma State. Dr. Ben Ford is going to be with us. So that's an example. If HEF can raise for this, they could take some of that off of our backs as a district. And the problem has been raising money for coaching has been challenging. It's hard to convince the public to spend money on coaching for teachers, apparently. So this is in the maybe, let's keep trying and maybe we'll get the right funder for this. K-5 enrichment, the district had brought in-house 2 years ago, right? We weren't going to not do enrichment anymore. HEF has asked us to kind of keep it on the pile. They are raising for it this year, and it looks like they're going to make to their funding goal. So this is a maybe, and this is a lot about what the appetite in the donor community is. They've told us that there is great desire in the community to continue to support enrichment. So if they can take this on and loosen our books on something else, then maybe we can take on some of the ELD coaching. So there's always this like kind of little back and forth that happens depending on what the appetite within the donor community is. We'd love to have an athletic trainer in the district. We'd love to have more support for our students and their coaches, both on the athletic field and in the training. So that's on the pile as well. That's what I got from the HEF. And as I mentioned, we'll bring this back in June for formal approval. Any questions?
Always impressive.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Erin.
Okay.
All right. All right, I would like to ask, we're going to run out of time here, so I'd like to ask the board for a motion and a second. We'll vote for an approval to extend our meeting to 9:15. We can only extend 15 minutes at a time, and we can only go as far as 9:30. So I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the first 15 additional minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. All right. Is there a HEF report tonight? I didn't see any HEF out there. Okay. All right, so we will move on to the HADA report.
Well, here I am again. I just want to remind you before I begin reading this letter that I'm reading on behalf of our my elementary colleagues, that equity means giving all students what they need in order to be successful learners in our schools. Learning to read is a fundamental right and expectation of education, but many students struggle to read and fall behind their peers. If not remediated with a robust reading intervention program, that achievement gap grows each year and affects student performance across all subjects. Students receiving insufficient intervention and still reading well below grade level by the end of fourth grade have a lower graduation rate, less of a chance of attending college, and an overall lower life earnings rate and quality of living. HUSD is an RTI, Response to Intervention District. RTI's purpose is to reduce the number of learners referred to learning disabilities or special education programs by providing extensive and effective instruction before children begin to fail. Approximately 75 to 80% of students in any given classroom will be successful accessing and learning general education. However, 10 to 15% will need targeted supplemental Tier 2 support. Typically, 5 to 10% of students will be identified in need of Tier 3 support for learning disabilities or special education. Tier 2 support is an integral part of a successful RTI program, and in order to achieve meaningful results, appropriate resources and time must be committed to the program. Due to a projected budget shortfall for 2018-19, the district cut intervention services as a stopgap measure for the current school year. As a result, students requiring intensive intervention at both elementary campuses are currently receiving only half of the services that they received in past years. Approximately 30 students at FMC are served by a 50% position, and 70 students at HES receive the equivalent of one full-time position, or two 50% positions. Staffing position projections for 2019-2020 will continue at the same level of staffing, which is still inadequate for Tier 2 students requiring intervention. Achievement gaps are highly unlikely to be closed in this scenario. The union finds cutting corners in reading intervention inadvisable and no solution to a budget issue, short or long term. It will not only hinder the success of these children for the remainder of their educational careers and beyond, but will also become a more expensive issue for the district to fix over time, as students without adequate intervention will continue to fall further behind their peers. A quality reading intervention program that serves students requiring intervention or urgent intervention as per STAR scores and other measures consists of daily sessions in small groups, ideally 5 days a week, or a minimum of 4 when that isn't possible. The district's approach this year is a pull-out session, 2, or in a few instances, 3 non-continuous days per week. This is far less than prescribed for the 1 to 2+ year deficits that these students have. If students with below grade level performance are to catch up with normally developing students, their rate of growth must be accelerated. Simply learning at an average rate will only maintain the deficit. A representative and trainer for the SIPS program, Adopted Phonics Program for Intervention at HES and FMC, when informed of the district's current program design, simply stated, "That's not intervention." Insufficiency in intervention services available also raises an issue of equity, as it disproportionately impacts the English language learner student population. Roughly 2/3 of the students at HES and FMC currently receiving intervention services are ELLs. As the district transitions away from the self-contained accelerated English program into the blended program, a robust intervention program is necessary to provide our most vulnerable students an equal opportunity to succeed. Although there are some exciting innovations being launched throughout the district, extra vigilance must be exercised over these most at-risk students, assuring that they do not fall through the cracks. The union recommends that intervention at HES and FMC be restored closer to its previous strength, in which 2 credentialed teachers at HES and a full-time reading specialist at FMC provided services in recent years. At the very least, 1 full-time highly trained interventionist is needed at each site, although more would be optimal at HES as its needs and numbers is greater, and early intervention in 1st and 2nd grade can close smaller gaps while students are still learning to read. Over time, minimizing intervention needs in upper elementary grades. Paraprofessionals are not recommended for conducting intervention as they are the least likely to have specialized training, and students most at risk are better served by the more highly trained credentialed teachers with early literacy acquisition experience. Reading specialists should be utilized for older students who have wider learning gaps. The district cannot afford to go backwards, nor allow a short-term decision to have a negative lifelong effect for students most in need. HUSD must persevere for the success of all its students. If equity is indeed our goal, then we must address these issues. For these stakeholders, our students, need us to be their advocates. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. So it gives me no great pleasure to be here at this hour to talk to you guys about what the role of the union president is. My role is to be the voice of the teachers. Today, we file an unfair labor practice charge against the Healdsburg Unified School District in protest of the draconian, heavy-handed management decisions to remove our member Greg Costa from the classroom without due process and without just cause. The email was sent around 4 o'clock to Mr. Van Hoovel. I believe you already have copies. If not, I have extra ones in here. Some of you may be asking yourselves this question: how did we get here? The answer is anything but simple. It's actually very messy, ugly, uncomfortable, agonizing, awkward, bitter, and insidious. What happened to Greg Costa is but a symptom of something much nefarious: a pervasive culture of silencing dissenting voices. In your letter dated May 9th, you stated, "Please know that we have a strict policy preventing retaliation, and such will not be tolerated." It truly saddens me to say that I have been a victim of retaliation. I want you to keep in mind that I have asked dozens of my members to come out of the woodworks, and they do not because they fear reprisal. So today, you will hear my story. It's not easy for me to say this, but as the elected leader and the only Latino male in the district, if it happens, or if it happened to me, what else is happening to other members? I don't like to think of myself as a victim, but rather a survivor of retaliation and empty accusations. I've realized that as a union leader, I have to give voice to those who do not, those who stay in the shadows because they fear such retaliation. Going back about a year ago, the board already knows this, I was verbally accosted in front of about 30 students by someone very close to the superintendent, a humiliating and demeaning experience that I wish on no one. When I informed the superintendent, I was faced with an incredulous laugh and an assertion that my statement was sheer hyperbole. It wasn't until I emailed you, the board, that I received an apology from the superintendent. And I thank you for that, and he hired an independent investigator to look into the incident. As you may already know, the investigator found my claim to be legitimate, and a couple of you even extended an apology on behalf of the district. I've yet to hear an apology from such person. However, In the spirit of working together, I let bygones be bygones. But within a month of starting this school year, I received a very peculiar email from the high school accusing me of stuff that I didn't do. CTA, I have my CTA board member here, reached out to me to see if I would be willing to take a 2-week leave of absence to work with them. I simply asked the superintendent for his advice, and he said, go get a sub. And since it's very difficult to get a sub, I decided to drop the case. I later got an email saying that I surreptitiously went around the school site administrators and asked for a leave of absence when I did no such thing. Around the same time, I received numerous phone calls from members asking me to investigate certain matters. I then contacted the district office as the union representative. I was once again reprimanded for reaching out to the DO in union confidential matters that should have never been told to my site administrator. And 3, and I think this was an error on their part, but I was also accused of not turning in an absence slip or not giving the district enough time. They asked me to put a 2-day notice. I gave the district 7-day notice. I ask you again the following question. If these tactics are being used to intimidate me, because I did feel intimidated, silence as the union president, imagine what else is happening to the rest of the district. Similar tactics are being used to the most vulnerable teachers who are in need of support and mentoring. And our most veteran teachers who have devoted their entire lives to educating our children of Healdsburg Unified are also victims of these maneuvers. There is something positive that is coming out of this, and that's seeing all the amazing people that stood up tonight for what is right, especially hearing all the wisdom from our speakers and our young speakers from the middle school. I hope the board is listening to your constituents. It gives me no pleasure to say this to you tonight, but you do have the power to end this crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Ever. Okay, I'm going to take this time to go ahead and vote to extend the meeting again till 9:30. Do I have a motion? A second? I'll second. All in favor say aye. 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 All right, that passes. All right, Board of Trustees reports. Anybody?
So I had the pleasure of visiting Mr. O'Connell's class and got to listen to some senior business plans, which are really impressive. And it was really enjoyable to hear just the wisdom and the knowledge that these students got from this experience of creating their own business plan. And I also got to visit or participate in the DLAC Fiesta, which was beautiful and really well organized. And yeah, it's been a good couple of weeks.
Thank you. I have something I would like to read. It's disappointing that individuals have left. I have something that I would like to say. I would like to express my deep concern and disappointment that individuals are using this public forum to make assertions that violate board policy and are accusatory and deeply personal, while the speakers know full well that the board and the district are precluded from responding and correcting misinformation publicly. We have clearly defined complaint procedures that they have chosen not to follow, and this creates discord and division in our community and is not fair to our students, parents, staff, especially those accused of wrongdoing. So I chose to write those words down instead of having to speak from the cuff because I think it needs to be said. There's very little that can be said and I hope I've made my point. With that being said, I don't want to end on a negative note. We've had some beautiful presentations today. We have amazing programs. We have amazing staff. We have amazing teachers. I don't want all of that to be pushed aside, not celebrated, but unfortunately, inaccuracies are out there. And it's very frustrating on my end that we are not able to set the record straight. So that is my statement. Anyone else have anything they would like to add? I will say one last thing. I did get a chance to go to the high school recognition evening, another first tradition, or maybe it's a returning tradition, I'm not sure. But it was fabulous and very exciting to see such a broad spectrum of students recognized for their different achievements. And it was outstanding. Kudos to leadership class and administration at the high school. So it was most fabulous.
And Jamie, thank you for your statement because I echo that. Yeah, thank you.
It's disappointing there aren't more individuals who have a lot to say, not hear that. All right.
I have just two comments. One is, and I won't name their names, but I met with a couple of community people, and it's about the arts. Both were very interested in bringing the arts, et cetera. I've invited them to contact the principals. I think I mentioned their names to the superintendent, but I asked those people to reach out. And unfortunately, the teacher that was here, the STEM teacher, if you will, that said STEAM, I'm thrilled that arts is now in STEM as a science person. I think the arts are very important as well. That said, on the topic that Jamie, you spoke to, it's difficult when you can't speak because you can't speak. That's the law. It's also important that as leaders, we do the right thing, and I believe we are. And as leaders, we have to come together with our community. We have to open our communication, and we've talked about that, and we will do that. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. 11.1G, local the LCAP.
So Aaron, no pressure.
Yeah.
We need 5 minutes for some contracts and stuff at the end. So,
yeah. So, we don't have time to do this due diligence. So I'm going to just try to get to where we need to be in compliance, to be completely honest. You heard a kind of mid-year report. We went through ad nauseum the data dashboard, right? Slide after slide. This was a couple months ago. The data dashboard is the new accountability tool. The LCAP is the strategic plan that rides along with the data dashboard, right? The new accountability measures are to inform, are to be the major source of driving what's in the LCAP. So what you're seeing tonight, these are in draft form. This is discussion item only. So we went through the data last time. We've been working with our stakeholders to put information in front of them. We like to have a two-pager. We call it an infographic, just to give kind of a snapshot of who we are in the district, our big four goals here, rigor, relevance, community, and facilities, trying to make all of this information and all of this EduSpeak a little more digestible to the wider community. So that's the purpose of the infographic. Like I said, this is in draft form. We will publish this after you approve the formal LCAP in June. So this rides along with the formal LCAP as a document that goes on our website, is in our offices, and it is a document. This is in the packet in both English and Spanish. We have it here tonight to look at. So just trying to move quickly. We do 2 LCAPs in this district, one for the Healdsburg Unified School District, and all charter schools, regardless of them being a dependent charter, as ours is, and you are all the board members of, or an independent charter, which most charters are independent charters and would have their own board, would operate very much differently than ours does as as a dependent charter. But we still have to write 2 LCAPs. And so we'll have tonight, right now, 2 separate agenda items. One, to provide just a quick overview. Like I said, this isn't going to be what it should be. These should be larger items, but we're just kind of running out of time. So the next document that you have in your packet, and you also have there in the dais with you, is the summary sheet Do we have that? Can we pull this guy up? Yeah, it's stapled. So, that one. There you go. Okay. The LCAP ends up being a nearly 200-page document. It's bureaucracy at its finest. Lots of fun checkboxes. Araceli knows this. We've been told by the feds in the state that they're working on a major revision. We're hoping it might get a little easier to fill out. It's a 3-year strategic plan. You can think about it like that. We are entering 2019-20. It is the 3rd year of the 3-year strategic plan. So next year will be the last year of that strategic plan. For us, I feel like it's really well timed, right? We've talked tonight about some major changes that need to happen in our district, talking about looking at our mission and vision, talking about moving to 1 elementary school. I'm kind of appreciating that we might have a new LCAP template, because I think that what we've had here for the last 3 or 4 years is an opportunity to kind of think anew. Are the 4 goals that we currently have what we want for future? But what we've got right now are 4 goals: rigor, relevance, community, and facilities. We're going to kind of stick with this and ride this through. So what you see are the actions and services there on the left that we list. As Erica said earlier, our big focus and rigor is around math, right? We're spending the majority of our time in math. The analogy I like to make with stakeholders, families, students, is that running a school district is kind of like remodeling a house, right? There's always lots of work that we want to do. We want to gut the kitchen, we want to gut the bathroom, we want to put some new paint on, but we know our teachers and all of us can only do so much, just like you could only do so much in your house. So we're really working hard on, I'd say, the bathroom, and that's math, right? We're doing some major revisions to our curriculum and the mindset that we bring into the classroom as educators. So the focus of rigor is in math, and you can see in our data, we've got some work to do. We've seen some nice slides, and we're trying to highlight here that we had improvement at the high school on the CAS, but we're still lagging in all subgroups at Healdsburg Elementary, Healdsburg Charter, and Healdsburg Junior High. 17% of our students leave as 8th graders met or exceeding standard in math. That's a scary number. And so there's work to be done. And so you can see in this document, kind of the downward slide in the 40s. We should be in the 60s, 70s, 80s in all of our areas. We'll get there. But so the focus for rigor is mathematics. So moving on to page 2, Steve, there in terms of relevance, the actions and services there on the left in the pinkish color, and then the data that we use to track how we're doing on that. We have a way to measure our kids' technology skills. We use learning.com in grades TK through 5 and a little bit at the junior high. The students take an assessment. We'll be doing this here. That's why it says May, that's not filled in. Robust CTE programs, robust AP programs. You can see in the infographic, if you have this in front of you, and turn it onto the back side, we have amazing CTE programs for our students. That we've got a full auto shop, full culinary, full ag, engineering. I know I'm going to forget all of them. We have a ton. I'm trying to move fast. We've seen amazing rises, particularly within our Latino population, of AP exams. So that's a data point that I'll take you about halfway down. A quarter of our Latino students are now taking at least 1 AP exam, and that compares to only 17% 3 years ago. 10 years ago, it was 9%. Only 9% of our Latino students 10 years ago took at least 1 AP exam, now 1 in 4. And the difference between the overall student population that is now almost at 30%. So nearly 1 in 3 of our students take at least 1 AP exam. So that's a success. We talked earlier about relevance and K-5 field trips and and PBL for all of our students. I came into this district as a PBL trainer. I worked for UC Berkeley for 6 years. My primary job was to go around the country to help schools do project-based learning. So this is right up my alley. I'm thrilled to be doing more PBL. Healthy Fitness Zone, something else to be celebrated, is the state seal of biliteracy. We had 17 students in the last class earn the state seal of biliteracy. That is no easy task. we have work to do around post-secondary attendance and the college and career prepared. I'm getting into what I wanted to say, and I'm just going to cut it short. So let's get to goal 3 around community. That's the last third of this page here. And we heard tonight a lot about the need for equity, and I think we all believe that we can do better and know that we can do better. And so that is an area where we probably should, and thanks, Mike, for the prompting. You and I had a quick little exchange about this. It probably makes sense to add a specific action that speaks directly to the equity work in here. So I'll promise you to bring that forward in June. I think we need to add a particular action and service 3.15 that calls out that work around not restorative practices, the equity work and the trauma work. So. The last goal around facilities, we have a nice bond thanks to our community and the voters. We've made some improvements and will continue at the junior high and the high school. And looking forward, Fitch Mountain got a lot of nice furniture to support 21st century learning in this past year. We'll be doing the same at Healdsburg Elementary and buying some furniture for them. So to open it up, the purpose of this is to get some input for you all to publicly set a little bit of direction. Like I said, not a whole lot of time. You can email any of us, right? We can't meet with more than 2 of you to talk about it, but our doors and our offices are always open to you to continue the conversation. And I appreciate many of you do that. You email us, you ask us your questions, you're stopping by to talk. So, but let's quickly, anything of question or input?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
In terms of the AP exam, is there funding or support for students that can't pay for the test?
Yeah, so we make sure that's already a done deal. Yeah, most of our students, gosh, I wish I could remember. I have it in a different PowerPoint. I want to say half of our kids who take the AP test receive a free or reduced price lunch. Okay. And so many of them can get the waiver. And then any student who isn't eligible for the waiver, we fill the gap for them.
Thank you.
Yeah, but we could do a better job of making sure that that said, and Connie Marks has been instrumental in this, our new assistant principal who's running the AP testing, that she's bilingual, bicultural, getting that information out to families so they're aware of that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other questions or input?
Yeah, we need to move on the contracts that are coming, but we can, follow up.
Okay, great, please. So the next agenda item real quickly is the charter. This largely mirrors the Unified School District. What's missing, why it's shorter, is anything that has to do 6 through 12 is pulled out, right? It's about the junior high or high school, goes out. There's a few little areas of distinction. You'll see in Goal 2, relevance, 2.1, interdisciplinary inquiry-based projects is 2.1 in the relevance area. So we make a point to call that out. We're doing well in terms of data. You guys have, it's color-coded there, right? Green is good, blue is best. I guess we'll just open it up for any input on the charter LCAP.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'd invite anybody that's here as well to contact me if they have any other questions or would like me to review any of this information or have input. This should be a little bit more of a process, but we're short on time tonight.
Thank you, Erin.
Yep.
Thank you, Erin. Look forward to seeing it back.
So we're going to table 11.2A and 11.2B. We'll do
Okay.
those. We'll pick those up in June.
So school business, the action items?
Yeah, so
Okay.
the next one is 11.3A. That is rescheduling the August board meeting from August 21st, which was the normal Wednesday schedule, to August 20th, because I can't be here the 21st because I will be taking my daughter to college.
Right, so do we have a motion to
I
approve?
move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good enough reason for me. 11.3B, board policy, use of facilities.
So we talked about this last time. We had a first discussion. There hasn't been any changes to the policy, so this is back on up for action.
Move for approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
11.3C, the agreement with Lathrop Construction.
Right, so we approved going forward with Lathrop several months ago, and this is the next piece in the contract is They've got the guaranteed maximum price now, and there's a lot of stuff I'd like to say about this, so maybe I'll give it to the superintendent that he can share in an update with you. Some really important things that I want you to know, but by and large, it's about what we thought it would be.
That'd be great if you'd share it with Chris. And
I've read it and move for approval.
Yep.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Sorry. Sidetracked. Tennis courts, approving the funding for paving.
Right, so this is to fix some of the big cracks and resurface the four regulation tennis courts we have on the high school campus.
Yeah.
I
Glad
have
you're
friends
doing
that'll
it.
be thrilled.
I'm sorry Val's not here to hear that. I'd like
Glad
to
you're doing it.
make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We will table transportation fee schedule till June. So
I think we can do it. Is there anything we want to do? We have 2 minutes.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 full minutes. All right.
Now what do we do?
You could have. All right. Thank you very much for everyone for your time and stick with itness tonight. I would like to recess for a few minutes to close session. And we hope to see you all back on Wednesday, June 12th.